Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you here to the Monster Mile Dover International Raceway for race number 11 of the G-Force Grand National Series. It's the penultimate race. This is the race that is going to set the table for what our championship battle is going to look like next week at North Wilkesboro, and what a crazy place to do it at the Concrete Mile track. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer, and Sam, we've seen a lot of these guys slipping and sliding around in practice. We're about to see what they're going to do in qualifying, but what is your thought process of these drivers and their hope to finish this race?
It's going to be extremely tough. Looseness seems to be what everyone is talking about and what we were seeing during practice. Corner number 4 is going to be the most difficult corner for these drivers to exit out of. The outside wall and the inside wall are going to be used and abused and absolutely ruined by the end of the day. I don't know if we're even going to be seeing a car that is going to be clean by the end of this race. 150 laps. And honestly, we could be seeing a caution almost every lap with how these cars just don't look stable at any way.
Drivers getting set for 150 laps here tonight in the Ed Hounshell Memorial 150. Of course, a relation to drivers Jake and trying to remember the other Hounshell here. Jason Hounshell, my apologies there. And I mean, how cool would it be for either one of them to be able to win this race? A tribute to, I believe it's their father, and of course Jake as well, trying to keep his championship hopes alive.
Yeah, I mean, out of the two Houndshells, Jake's looking like the faster one here at Dover. And for the first part of this practice, it was looking like that 0-2 was going to be one of the fastest cars on top of the board. But for practice, the way it ended, Gerald Campbell was the fastest. Then it was Steinmiller and Akin, your top 3. And really, it's going to be, Steinmiller that's probably in the mindset of, I've got to win this race, and hope to see Gerald Campbell as well as Whitendorf have a bad day, which, speaking of Whitendorf, I don't see that 33 machine on their board.
I do not either. You're absolutely right. I never even actually took notice in practice that he wasn't there. And so that might actually put this championship battle to rest, depending on what happens with the 63 and that 0-2 out there on track. And of course, as well as Gerald Campbell, where he finishes out today's event. It's been a while since we've seen Gerald Campbell go to victory lane. This being the third race of the back-to-back short tracks we've had. We had Whitendorf, of course, win the first one at USA International. And then last week, we saw Christopher Morris Jr. go to victory lane at Iowa from the back of the pack. So here today at Dover, is it all about track position? How much stress is there on qualifying?
I think it really is going to be based on track position, because some of the drivers in the back half of the field just seem like they were struggling to be even staying on course. So I think if you can at least stay in the top 10, you're feeling comfortable. As long as you are not hitting the walls, you should be having a good day for yourself. But we're still waiting for drivers to be lined up here for qualifying. Looking like it's going to be David White in the 83 machine that should be starting us off once these drivers get loaded in and ready for qualifying. But it's going to be a tall order for these drivers. I think another thing to watch out for is, since it's going to be a lot of slipping and sliding and looseness, how are the tires going to be reacting? Remember, they only have 2 sets to work with in pit road, but we haven't really been seeing a lot of drivers thinking big strategy besides, Kyle Johnson or Bo Brady.
And we also know that they're not going to have a faster pair at their disposal. And as you can see with our shot right here, there is a wall separating pit road from the racetrack. We've seen a lot of drivers struggle with corner exit. And if your car goes around off of 2 or 4, it's going to be very unlikely you're going to be able to save that thing without it making impact with the wall, more than likely with the front end.
Yeah, I think the best time to save it might be off of 2, but extremely coming off of 4, that's going to be where the most difficult part is. And we're talking about how these drivers are going to get loose off and most likely spin, but there's also the tight sensation that will kick in coming out of the corners, because these outside walls just feel like they're reaching out and trying to grab you at all times. Dover, probably one of the most difficult tracks, just because the way that the exiting off the corners and the transition from the high banks of these corners to the way the straightaways are.
I know that this track is twice the size of Bristol, but it is the same kind of concrete surface, and we saw a lot of multi-lane racing at Bristol. I watched a lot of these guys in practice. Some of them hooked it right around the bottom. Some of them were running up against the wall there in turns 1 and 2, so I think we're going to see a lot of the same type of racing in terms of passing that we saw back the world's fastest half mile.
Yeah, I think most of the drivers are going to be trying to focus on staying as low as possible, as close to the bottom as they possibly can. And overall, they might be gradually moving up. There might be some drivers early in this race that might try that 2nd to 3rd groove just to put rubber down early so it's usable later on in the race.
Went back and looked just previously at the last two races. Ironically enough, our two previous winners, John Whitendorf and Christopher Morse Jr., neither one of them started inside of the top 10 in their respective races. Whitendorf started 15th at USA International, and Christopher Morse Jr. last week started from the 22nd position. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe someone that we expect to be a front runner in this race that may not get the best qualifying effort, if maybe they might be the sleeper to watch during the course of this 150 lapper. His car is now getting set to head on to the racetrack. And as you mentioned, the number 83 of David White, he's now the first one to head on out. David making his third start of the season. And I actually talked with him pre-race. He wanted me to shout out his sponsorship here tonight, Devon's Deals. David White does a lot of hero card auctions over on Facebook on Mike's Hero Card and Warehouse. And it's actually going to be having an auction tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if anybody would like to tune into that, David said, come on by.
Yeah, and David joined in a couple of races ago and has really been showing great consistency of just staying on the lead lap. I think that's the biggest goal for this 83 team, is make sure you stay at least your car in one piece and finishing out these races on the lead lap.
Pretty stable there through 1 and 2. We'll see how he looks through 3 and 4. Of course, these drivers only have one money lap to work with here. Look very steady there off of 3 and 4 as well. Not the typical loose sensation we've seen most drivers struggle with, as he's going to clock in with a 23.746, which I think is almost nearly a full second faster than what he ran in practice.
No, that's actually almost a second slower than what he was running in practice. He was running a 23.1, and a lot of the other drivers were running 22.5s or faster than that for practice as their best time. So a kind of a more reserved time that White put down, but I think that's the safest way to go, as now it's going to be AJ DiMarzio in the 5 machine, running extremely low, trying to get a great time coming out of the 4, and this 5 machine really trying to push it, going to be faster than the 83 with a 23.303.
Good lap there for AJ DiMarzio. Of course, as we look at the 85 of James Goshen, we talked about this the last 2 weeks, but it's just as prevalent here today. With it being a short track, there's little room for error. If you spin out, if you brush the wall, more than likely it's going to throw away your qualifying lap time. So going back to your point about David White kind of tiptoeing around the racetrack, maybe just making sure that he's going to actually have a lap time laid down, and it may put him ahead of some drivers that struggle. Speaking of struggle, James Goshen, not sure what happened with that 85, but it did not clock him in with a lap time.
Yeah, he bobbled coming into the first corner and just felt like, hey, I'm just going to dump it and get out of qualifying this lap. Going to be starting the back of the field is going to be Goshen, as James Roth now on track going through 3 and 4, about to clock in his time. And this 4 machine, I've got a feeling that it's going to be a pretty good day for this 4, as it's going to be the best time on the field. And that's going to be a sub 23, a 22.889 for the 4 machine.
Randy Koke now out on the track in the 19 machine. Yeah, James Roth, 2 top 10s this season and 14th in the standings as Randy Koke. I don't know if he brushed it from that camera angle or not, but he got close to the inside wall off of 2.
I believe he did brush it. We'll see if the time is going to be viable or if it's going to be invalidated. And across the line, it's going to be the 19, and it looks like it will not be validated. So an invalid time.
Would have been a 23.463 if it had counted, which would have, I believe, put him 3rd out of the 4 drivers that have taken time.
And now our FRN colleague, Michael Norman, out on track in the 6 machine, and Michael's kind of a wild card. We haven't really seen him since Auto Club. We'll see what the 6 machine has here coming through 3 and 4.
Down into 3 and 4, trying to hook the bottom, like you said, take the shorter way around the track, and at the line, 22.956. That will currently put him 2nd, just about 67 thousandths off of the pole lap currently held by James Roth.
Shane Lake now going to be coming across the line. I don't know if that was starting his time or not. Nope, looks like that was his first lap, and due to the fact that where his pit stall is, that's not really his lap that counts. As now Lake coming around 3 and 4.
Yeah, a little bit higher there through 3 and 4 than some of our previous drivers have been running, and he's going to pay the price.
That's exactly that tightness sensation I was talking about, that some of these drivers are going to be feeling if you go a little bit too high coming through the center of the corner. It just throws your car up. And if you're trying to stay too low, it feels like the back end's about to loop around, and it's that balancing act that you're going to have to deal with. Jason Houngel now on track with that 00.
Of course, this being a tribute race to Ed Houngel here at Dover, so it'd be so cool to see one of the Houngels go to victory lane. Jason coming into this race currently in the 8th position in points, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, and he's going to clock in with a 22.988, right, or 989, I should say, right now 3rd on the board.
Not a bad time there for the 00. We'll see where it stands. Peyton Hill, the 84 machine, now going to be on track, clocking and starting his time.
You know, we talked about loose off the corner that these drivers are struggling with in practice. You just talked about the tightness off the corner. One thing, I think one word we're going to use and abuse here tonight is finesse, because that's really what Dover is, a finesse track. It's all about throttle control, when you're going to get back to the throttle, how much throttle and how much brake you're going to carry into the corner to stabilize your car, and these drivers have to do that for 150 laps. It's 22.971 for the 84 of Peyton Hill.
Yeah, Peyton Hill kind of had to screw off a little bit of time. It looked like it could have been a pole position lap time for the 84, but had a little bit of a bobble coming out of turn number 4 that really hurt this 84 machine.
Going to bring the 7 of Jackson McLaren onto the racetrack. Jackson looking to make his 6th start of the season. Currently sits in the 29th position in points. Still looking for his first top 10 of the season, as another driver kind of a little bit wider there through 3 and 4, but looked like he almost arced it there to get a shallower exit off of the final corner, and he's going to get a 23.220, 5th currently of the 7, make that 8 drivers that have taken time.
Now it's going to be the 14 of Cooper Johnson, and Cooper's been interesting of a driver to be watching since his debut. Has just been getting a little bit better each week, and excited to see now what this 14 is going to be doing here at Dover.
Yeah, definitely was a player up inside the top 10 for pretty much the entirety of last week's race at Iowa. Could be a sleeper today as he slides it, and I think he's going to save it to the line, but that slide's going to cost him 5th on the board with a 23.070.
Absolutely wheeling it. One of those times that we talk about where you're possibly not going to be able to save your car. Somehow, Cooper Johnson proving us wrong even here during qualifying.
Now, do we just be quiet here for Kyle Johnson's qualifying effort? Because every time we talk about the hardships that he seems to have in qualifying, something happens. It's good for us because we have to watch him work his way from the back to the front, but I think he doesn't want us to talk about his qualifying bad luck.
Well, yeah, let's talk about what's going on. I mean, that's a really good scheme that 88's got going on, though. Working the Bass Pro Shop and also the Good Wrench Dale Sr. type of machinery here.
Having a good season, too. I mean, 11th in the point standings, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5, and at the short tracks, he only needs to be 1 there.
There we go.
We tried. We really tried.
You know, maybe for the finale, we're trying something different.
They scored him, though. On my end, they scored him. 22.956, 2nd on the board.
Somehow, I mean, I think maybe he just brushed it enough where it didn't hurt him too bad, but that's a rarity. A little bit of luck for the 88 machine. 2nd on the board.
There you go. We also know that when he qualifies up at the front, he stays up at the front. Case in point, back at Auto Club Speedway is now Peyton Hamlet in the number 10 on the racetrack. Hamlet coming into this race currently in 27th in points, looking to make start number 7 on the year.
And Hamlet coming across the line. It's going to be a 23.419. Best for 9th place right now on the board, but we'll see how that shifts down. But now we've gotten past the halfway marker here, Seth, and now things are going to get a little bit interesting because this is around the time that we start to see those drivers that were the fastest during practice, what they've got for speed. And now it's going to be Jake Houngel on the board.
162 points back with 2 races remaining is Jake Houngel, 4th in the standings as he's going to clock in 22.751, move the 0-2 to the top of the timing charts.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Jake Houngel, the driver to watch out for in my eyes, because he's going to be quick, as well as Stein Miller. Both of them are in kind of a must-win scenario for themselves, and also hoping for bad luck for Gerald Campbell.
Yeah, and I think a big reason why it'd be a must-win situation, too, is there's no guarantee Gerald Campbell's going to struggle here today. We saw the last couple of weeks the tug of war for the points lead between Campbell and Whitendorf, and it was really only by a couple of positions at both USA and Iowa last week.
Anthony Garneri in the 16 machine. A little bit off coming out of turn number 2, but still trying to hold strong. Getting a little bit low, drifts about a half groove high through the apex, and it's looking good for the 16. Close to the wall, but still a very good time with a 22.877 second on the board.
Garneri's 7th in points coming into this race, and in my mind, probably the most improved driver of the season. We saw him finishing, maybe outside the top 10, the top 15, but in the last 3-4 weeks, he has consistently been up inside of the top 10, even was out in front quite a bit in last week's race at Iowa. Now, Jeff Green in the number 2, back finally. We ended up not seeing him in last week's Iowa festivities, but the Bristol winner is back at another concrete track.
Yeah, possibly taking a week off, trying to recoup. It's kind of been a slump here for Jeff Green, but 3rd on the board with a 22.888 for the 2 machine.
Despite missing last week, he only dropped to 9th in the point stands, did Jeff Green, and now we look at a driver that 2 weeks ago at USA International picked up a pole position, Seth Harlson in the 07. As a matter of fact, his qualifying efforts the last 2 weeks at short tracks have been really good.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, is qualifying's been good, but when it comes to race time, this 07 just seems to struggle and gets caught up into wrecks all the time. We'll see what he's got loose out of 4, but still looking quick. But not going to be quick enough. Looks like it's going to be a 23.139, 10th on the board right now.
If that holds, as now it's going to be the 20 of Bo Brady. You talk about a driver that has just kind of also hit a slump. We saw him consistently up inside the top 5 in the first half of this season, but it just seems like he's hit a wall as our winner from Phoenix.
It's our final 4 drivers to try to qualify. Bo Brady looked extremely quick at the start of practice and then started to drop down. 4th fastest during practice. But Bo Brady, I think this is a week for redemption for this 20 machine. He is extremely low, still holding strong. That's one of the most stable we've seen these drivers, but not going to be best of the time. Might be around 5th. It is 5th on the board for Bo Brady with a 22.931.
Bo Brady still 10th in points, trying to finish out the season top 10 in the standings. And now we've got the 05 of Blaine Akin. And, we saw these drivers in practice slipping and sliding around. We know that Blaine Akin loves it when the car is like that. We'll see if it translates maybe at him starting on the pole. See him running really high here out of turn 3 and then dive it low off of turn 4, trying to get that really good launch for his warm-up lap.
Yeah, trying to get as much speed built into these straightaways when you start your time, and staying low as the 05 and into the wall. And that should be scrubbing off his time, but we'll continue to watch and see, because the 88 worked out, but he's going to jump out at this lap.
Tough break there for Blaine Atkins. So another driver we're going to be watching work his way from the back to the front. May not be the worst thing. As I said, 15th place is the highest starting that a race winner in the past 2 weeks has started, is now Hank Steinmiller in the 63. Here tonight at Dover is going to decide whether he's going to be in that championship battle next week or not.
Yeah, Hank Steinmiller, I think he needs to get a pole here and stay up front all race long. But will the 63 get a clean lap here? He's already started the time through 3 and 4, looking good. How is this exit going to be? A little high, close to the wall, but still looking clean. And that should be good enough for the pole for Hank Steinmiller, a 22.659 for the 63 on top of the board.
Steinmiller looking to be a back-to-back pole sitter as he started on the inside of the front row last week at Iowa. But it's Gerald Campbell that's going to try and knock him off in that number 25 machine.
Who's going to be getting our Dirty Racing Podcast Pole Position Award? Gerald Campbell. He's won a lot of them so far this year. We can see if he can add another pole award to his collection. 25's driving it hard, trying to stay low. Looking extremely neat and across the line. Doesn't look like it's fast enough for Gerald Campbell. Pole position going to Hank Steinmiller.
It'll be back-to-back times. Hank Steinmiller will start on the pole. He started 7th at USA, pole position last week at Iowa, and he will start from the inside of the front row here today at Dover. We're going to have to see how that translates into finishing results, as right now Hank Steinmiller has finished no lower than 6th in the last 2 races.
Extremely good time for Hank Steinmiller there, but I mean, just looking at all these drivers and where they're at right now, I mean, you've got a lot of hungry drivers that start in the back half. Christopher Morse Jr., if he races, he'll be starting in the back. Saw him race from last place to win last week at Iowa. You got Blaine Atkin. And then you've also, I mean, we've seen James Goshen just be consistent and finding himself in the top 10 a couple of times. We'll see if that 83 machine can do it again, as he'll be starting the back half of the field as well.
Keep an eye also on the 14 of Cooper Johnson and that 00 of Jason Hounshell, a couple of drivers that we usually see up inside the latter half of the top 10 week after week, and they're going to be starting right now outside of the top 10 for tonight's event.
As qualifying has come to an end, again, your Dirty Racing Podcast Pole Position Award going to be going to Hank Steinmiller. If you want to listen to some great racing analysis, go look at all social media sites of @Dirty Racing Podcast.
All right, so 150 laps these drivers have to prepare for here, Sam. We saw a couple of drivers be really aggressive in qualifying, and they paid for it. We saw some other drivers be a little bit more conservative, and in terms of speed, they paid for it, but they were able to have their lap times count. So now, heading into turn one here on the first lap, do we go aggressive or do we go conservative?
I mean, I would hope that these drivers are thinking about going conservative here, but I mean, it's really a toss-up of what we're going to be seeing from these drivers. I mean, you saw it a lot there during qualifying, and I know these drivers are pushing to have the best time possible, but the loose sensation is there coming out of the corner, and instead of being by yourself, having all that room to work with, you're now going to be side by side, bunched in. If you get loose and the driver behind you doesn't, they could be running into you and bringing out a caution. So all the factors are now going to be built up, and this is looking to be a very nerve-wracking race for a lot of the drivers that are going to be in the back half of the field. And how are they going to be able to march their way up, to be up front, to even challenge some of our front runners?
Right, so obviously next week the championship is decided, but as stated at the top of the program, tonight could be the deciding factor into who it is that's going to be battling for said championship next week. We've already talked about the strategy that needs to be implied by both Hank Steinmiller and Jake Hounshell, but if you're that 25 of Gerald Campbell, you've got over 100 points between yourself, Steinmiller, and Hounshell. Your main source of competition, John Whitendorf, is not in the field tonight, so what do you do here tonight at Dover?
I think right now for Gerald Campbell, it's just finish in the top 10 and make sure you're in front of, just make sure you don't finish last. I think that is really the key here for Gerald Campbell, because right now, I mean, Hank Steinmiller and Hounshell are both over 120 points back, and they were already at the really it was the slimmest of margins and almost mathematically impossible for Jake Hounshell to even win this championship. And Steinmiller is almost outside of the mark there as well. And this could be today's race. We could be really marking Gerald Campbell as our championship winner by the end of this race.
If you are going back to the situation for Steinmiller and Hounshell, if you are in the situation you currently find yourself in, do you have to maybe be a little bit more aggressive than you normally would like to be, just knowing the fact that your championship hopes depend on this race?
Yeah, I mean, for both those drivers, it's great that they qualified in the top three. Top three get bonus points. If you're in first, you get 2 points. So 2 points is now going to Steinmiller. The only issue is that the two drivers that he's battling for the championship, both of them get 1 point. So it's still going to be a hard race for these drivers, but 5 bonus points for the most laps led and for a lap led. We'll see how these drivers evolve and how aggressive they feel like being. As coming out of the corner, we're about to go green.
Ed Hounshell 150 at Dover International Raceway is green. We're racing at the Monster Mile.
And Bo Brady immediately ducks into the inside. Might have spun his tires, as now he's going to be ducking low, but it's going to be our front four really pulling away and looking solid. It's everyone behind, about 6th on back, looking a little scary as they're still side by side and completely clustered up.
Backed him up 3 wide there, did the spinning the tires of the 20 machine as the battle for second place is on. Jake Hounshell on the top, Gerald Campbell on the bottom, trying to see who's going to be the one to get up there and try and take the lead from Hank Steinmiller. Give it to 25 into turn 1.
And this is terrible news for Hank Steinmiller as well as for Houndshell. We thought we were going to have 22 drivers racing this race. 2 of them did not take the green, AJ DiMarzio as well as Cooper Johnson. So more really points being lost for both those drivers.
All right there, an exchange for 4th place, and I don't think it was necessarily a willing exchange as Anthony Guarneri got really tight going into turn 3. Cars almost seemed to just slide up the racetrack. We definitely talk about it week after week, but I think no more so than here at Dover. That right front, you do not want to overcook it, especially if we do manage to go into a long green flag run, because that outside wall, it will find you in a hurry.
It certainly will, and it's going to be difficult for these drivers to try to cool that tire down if you're not being careful. So you want to give an update for a driver that is just really slicing and dicing his way through this field. Blaine Atkin started in 19th place. He's already up to 12th.
In the hands here of Kyle Johnson inside of the 88, looking ahead to Anthony Guarneri, who gets a little squirrely off of turn 4, trying to put the pressure on Jeff Green for the 4th position. There is the 05 you just talked about, Blaine Atkin, now trying to crack into the top 10. He's got a couple more cars to get up to here, the 7 of Jackson McLaren and the 07 of Seth Harrelson before he'll make his first appearance into the top 10 in this race.
Yeah, well, Jeff Green, I mean, he missed last week. I think he just needed a week off possibly. Get his mind set up for this race because he is just, this is a different Jeff Green than what we've been seeing. Usually the aggressiveness kicks in later on in the race for Jeff Green, but he has just been on it, trying to get up front as quick as possible, up to 3rd place now.
A little contact there in a battle for what was then the 5th position between Kyle Johnson and Anthony Guarneri. Guarneri almost up into the wall off of turn 4 as a result. That allowed Bo Brady to go around. And, you know, if we go back to last week at Iowa, when Christopher Morris Jr. made the pass for the win, he had to use up the car that he was passing just a little bit. I think we're going to see some contact in this race as well, with drivers kind of having to force the issue to make their way around for position as Jeff Green now moves up P2.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a bigger Bristol. These drivers have some space to work with, and it means that you can use your bumper to try to get a car out of the way. But Jeff Green now up to 2nd place. He's now going to be trying to run down Steinmiller, and Steinmiller is kind of doing the Blaine Atkins strat. Get ahead and don't look back. Just try to pull away as fast as possible, and don't worry about your tires until later on.
Interesting thought here. Talked about the fact that Bristol is concrete, Dover is concrete. Jeff Green looking very fast right now. Is there anything from possibly the way that the car handles back at Bristol that he can apply here to Dover?
Yeah, I mean, at Bristol, the drivers talked about there was a little bit of a looseness that they were dealing with the setup. These are fixed setups these drivers are working with, so everyone's on equal footing. And it might be due to the fact that they are feeling like very similar at times. And Jeff Green feeling comfortable making the moves. Kyle Johnson, though, not making very many friends as he moves Jake Houndshell out of the way. Now going to get Gerald Campbell out of the way. 88 machine up to 3rd.
Pushed up a little bit there into turn 1. Thought we might see some contact between his right rear and Campbell's left front, but he was able to make the pass pretty quickly before they even got to the center of the corner. Now sets his sights on Jeff Green in 2nd place. Further back, we got a good battle going on. Blaine Atkin, he was working his way up there through the field, but he's now started to get reeled in. Oh, I think we had trouble back here with Peyton Hamlet in the 10, and we have over in turn 1.
Yeah, and Hamlet spinning around and looking to see where exactly this started, but I think it started coming out of 4.
And he was starting to reel in Blaine Atkin. That's why I dropped back there. That was turning out to be a pretty good battle for around the 12th position. Then all of a sudden, he just dropped like a rock. And I'm almost wondering if maybe there might have been some contact or if he just looped it. Because that was in the entry to a corner.
He looped it coming really on this entry of turn 4. He just got loose in the whole entire front stretch. This 10 was trying to save it and just never could until it got to the entry of turn 1. And finally, that 10 machine completely looped around.
You see it right there. And oh, wow. Close call for the 85 of James Goshen. A lot of times you have a car spin down to the inside going into turn 1. It's going to come back up the racetrack. So close call there for a couple of drivers. And nice driving by Peyton Hamlet to avoid really making any contact with anything.
Yeah, and Christopher Morris Jr., another one of those drivers that was feeling very lucky that he didn't get involved in that, because really with the 10, the way that he was aggressively trying to save the machine, Christopher Morris Jr. really had no idea, because it was so random how the 10 was moving, where to put that machine.
And on board with the 85 of James Goshen, and There you see the 10 coming right back up the track, and oh my goodness, watch the hands there of James Goshen as that thing was into a four-wheel slide trying to avoid getting hit in the left rear. Nice piece of driving by a lot of drivers there, because that's one of the most sketchiest areas of Dover there, and the entrance to turn 3 when a car spins out, and that could have been a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah, it really could have been. Drivers are trying to get repairs done. That's going to be James Roth as well as James Goshen, both of those drivers. I was just about to bring up the fact that the 4 was extremely off the pace after having an incident with himself getting loose as well. But then we saw the 10 spinning out and bringing out our first yellow of the day, which surprising to me at least is the fact that we made it past 10 laps and we stayed green that whole entire time.
I think maybe a reason why a couple of those drivers are coming down pit road, namely the 4 of James Roth, could be to repair some damage. We've seen in qualifying, and we saw a couple of drivers to kind of brush the wall there off of turn 4 here on this 10-lap run. And the big issue with Dover is the fact that it's only a mile in length, and they go around it really fast. So you almost are towards a turn before you know it. There's no opportunity to really be able to cool down that right front once the car starts to get tight on you. And if you get up into the wall, you're going to continue to feel that for the remainder of the run. And so with no opportunity to be able to cool down that right front, there's every opportunity that after you've brushed the wall once, you're probably going to brush it a couple more times before a caution comes out to save you come down and repair that right side damage.
Yeah, and also these drivers got to be aware of how they're going to be brushing the wall. I always talk about if you hit the wall like a pancake, flat, parallel, you are okay. But if you come in and hit the wall and in any type of angle, you're going to be doing more damage to your vehicle than what you would have done if you just brushed it, like I said, pancaking it. And also, if you hit it with an angle, there's a chance you're probably going to bounce off the wall and launch yourself back the other way. And these drivers have to be very concerned about that. And also, if there's any side-by-side racing coming off these corners, that's probably going to be the most dangerous spot here at Dover.
As you brought up earlier, 2 sets of tires for these drivers. No surprise that the leaders haven't come down pit road this early, but they've been out there and run 10 laps under green flag conditions. These tires are now starting to cool down. The rubber that they laid down is going to start to get in their tires. And we saw even on the initial start of this race, Bo Brady spin the tires. That's got to be a concern for these drivers, I would think, because this concrete's going to be very slick.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for sure for a lot of these drivers, but just because of the fact of trying to pick and choose when do you want to get the tires. We've seen Bo Brady and Kyle Johnson earlier on in the season doing the strategy of pitting earlier than everyone else, taking tires earlier just so you have the advantage to get track position than everyone else. But Kyle Johnson and Bo Brady these last couple of weeks, they've been up front, so they don't have to do that strategy, and they can stay with everyone else.
You mentioned 2 drivers that missed the start. One of them has actually gotten onto the racetrack, albeit 14 laps down. That's number 14 of Cooper Johnson. So right now, he is in the 21st position. 24 drivers on track as Hank Steinmiller is going to lead them back to green on that inside line. Jeff Green to the outside in second. Then it'll be Kyle Johnson, Gerald Campbell, and Jake Hounshell. That'll be your top 5 as we get ready to go back green flag racing on lap 16.
Yeah, the driver I've got my eye on has got to be the 88 and the 05. How aggressive are both those drivers going to be? The 88 up front, the 05 in the middle of the course as green flags in the air. Hank Steinmiller already up to a 2-car length lead.
Great jump there for him off turn 4, and they are stacked up behind around 5th place. That's where you find Brady, Hounshell, Guarneri, Hill, as well as Seth Harrelson. They settle it out at least for the moment. Everybody single file in the top 10. Off turn 2, we got a car hard in the wall back there.
That's going to be Jason Hounshell, who gets hard into the inside wall, but because it was on the apron, no yellow comes out. But that was Gerald Campbell that really did not get going on the outside, clogging everyone up and forcing drivers to be 3 wide. But now we're green, and we're still going in our top 3, pulling away from the rest of the field.
A lot of left front damage there on the 00 of Hounshell as Kyle Johnson literally forcing his way to the inside of Jeff Green for the 2nd position. This 88, as we said, when he starts at the front, he moves to the front very quickly and very aggressively. We're seeing it here in the first 20 laps.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Green had to be aggressive in our first 5 laps, and now we're seeing Kyle Johnson kind of following the same thing that what the 2 was doing. Be aggressive, try to stay up front. And I think everyone's noticing, hey, we have to figure out how to stay with Steinmiller because he's the odds-on favorite coming into this race. Most of the drivers, before practice even started, were talking about how the 63 looking like the favorite to win today's race. It was everyone else that was looking like, hey,
We need to just figure out how to stay close while the 63 pulls away.
Looking back here at Gerald Campbell in the 25 machine, currently 13th on the board. Right behind him, Shane Lake in the 81. Something tells me that maybe that Gerald Campbell, after everything that happened there on that restart, he's just kind of riding at the moment, trying to keep himself out of trouble, because you have to have your car in one piece to be able to win this race for sure. You want that car to be at 100%. And Gerald Campbell, of course, trying to find victory lane for yet another time. He leads drivers with most trips to victory lane this season.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have that poor of a restart, why not just back off, try to save your tires, understanding, hey, we've already seen a yellow come out, and a lot of drivers have already been having issues. Most likely, another caution is going to come out. Try to save your tires. Make sure you've got the best ones later on in the race.
Jason Hounshell, I should say, has not come to pit road. He is still on the lead lap. But currently, obviously, a little bit off the pace because of that left front damage. He did pick up a spot there. Moving up to 19th is Kyle Johnson. Man, he is using up that outside wall off of 4. That's at least the 3rd time on this run I've seen him get up into that outside retaining wall with the right side of that machine.
And it's going to continue on, like you said. Once you brush it once, your car just starts to tighten up a little bit more every time. And it feels like the wall's reaching out further and further. And this is going to be something that we're going to just have to document throughout the rest of this race, because like you said, there's no fast repair for these drivers. And also, if you're running that hard and you're that tight, most likely you are using up that front right tire, and it's just going to get more and more difficult.
The thing I'm wondering here, it didn't look like he lost a lot of ground on Hank Steinmiller. So is there a way with this car that you can maybe pancake the right side of that machine off the corner, but still keeping it into the throttle, be able to keep in touch with the driver you're battling?
I mean, it's a tad of both. You know, you hit it, you brushed it, not that hard, and you're able to keep on going and keep your momentum. And then also the factor of, as Hank Steinmiller might have used up his tires. So far, he's running about 4/10 off of what his best lap time was, and everyone's doing the same. But I don't know if this 63 might have just pulled ahead a little bit too quick. But I'm just watching it and waiting to see, has Hank Steinmiller kind of, jinxed himself in a way of being way too far out.
For that time, 88 of Kyle Johnson nearly went around on him going into turn 1. He brushed the wall not once, but twice. The second time, past the start-finish line. As he was trying to gather it up, he then had to turn left into the corner. Back end wanted to snap around on him. So he is struggling with the handling of that race car right now.
Yeah, I know the broadcast can't hear it, but Jeff Green over the radio was just wondering, how many times you're going to be hitting that wall. I mean, the questions of, if Kyle Johnson, this is what I was talking about during the caution, if you're side by side with another driver on the exit of these corners, like we're about to see for the 02 and the 88, you hit the wall, you easily can come down and collect multiple machines with you coming out of 4.
Not only that, but if you get up into the wall, a lot of other drivers behind you, not only getting the aero tightness of running your draft,
yellow in the back. Goshen, as well as Randy Koken making contact. This was a group of 4 machines that were around each other for the longest time. Started to get spaced out. It looks like Koken might have gotten into the wall coming out of 4.
A lot of front end damage there on the number 85 of James Goshen. And there is the aforementioned 19 of Randy Koken, as the whole nose of that machine almost hanging maybe by a tether. He'll undoubtedly have to come down pit road and get some repairs. Rear end damage as well on his machine. Let's take a look and see what happened to them on the front stretch.
Yeah, mainly was just Koken got a little bit too antsy and got into the outside wall, and Goshen tried to capitalize on that brush and just did not work out for either driver.
Randy Koken was running fairly well, was around the 15th position at the time, but man, that is some hard impact, and that's what we talked about. If you spin, especially on that front straightaway, there is so little room for error, and more than likely you're going to hit with the front end of your race car, and both of those cars really mangled and torn up.
Yeah, and now we're going to be seeing, this is going to be helping out, Jason Hounshell with the incident that he had once we went green. He has that hard left side damage. He gets a little bit of that repaired, but both Goshen and Koken, this is difficult for both those drivers, and we'll see how they can recoup. But we talked about this before the broadcast of how much damage are these drivers going to be dealing with, and is that damage going to be affecting them on the long term of this race? And it looking like you might be able to still run decently well, as Jason Hounshell was proven to us there on that run, but If you're low on power, this is going to be a struggle to run well.
I'm noticing most of the drivers here running on the inside line down the back straightaway, and I'm going to watch and see. It does look like this is the case. The 14 of Cooper Johnson is the lucky dog, but if you remember back to, which track was it? I think it was 3 weeks ago when we were at Texas. Yeah, I think it was at Texas when Shane Tyrion missed out on the start. They allowed him to go around and get as many laps back as he possibly could. And then when he was one lap down, then he would get the lucky dog on the next caution and get back on the lead laps. Looks like they're doing the same thing possibly for the 14 of Cooper Johnson after he missed the start.
We'll see. I mean, he was the lucky dog recipient, and I believe that was his lap that he was getting back. We'll see if they want to give him any more positions back for the 14, but looking like they are just going to be giving him the one position, but it's still early in this race for these drivers, and the possibility of more cautions coming out is pretty high for the way that this race was looking like, with the looseness these drivers are going to be dealing with, as well with just these cars at Dover. It's so hard for anyone to really hold a grip, but so far doing pretty well for everyone out here. Only our second caution of the day.
See that damage still on the front end of Randy Koken. He was only in his pit stall for a little less than 30 seconds, and they didn't do a whole lot of repairing to the nose of that machine, so he remains on the lead lap. James Goshen, on the other hand, still sits on pit road getting damage repaired to his number 85. Jason Hounshell coming back down pit road getting some more repairs done to the left front of his machine, but 30 laps in, working our second caution of the day, and there's no doubt about it. There are some drivers here that have decided to kind of conserve their tires, not be overly aggressive, but on the flip side, you look at guys like Jeff Green and Kyle Johnson. I mean, these guys, they have been on it, being as aggressive as possible to try and pick up spots.
Yeah, we'll see how these drivers are going to be trying to pick up their spots, but it's looking like as long as you feel comfortable and feel like, hey, I can be aggressive, you really can make some moves on the inside, moving some drivers or not. But excited to see how this is going to be going for most of these drivers so far. I mean, the three of Christopher Morse Jr. already up to 9th place. Not a bad run for himself. And then also Blaine Atkin right there with him.
Christopher Morse Jr. last week at Iowa. It's a track just a tick under a mile, a little bit shorter than over here today, but he started 22nd, went to victory lane. Well, he started 22nd here today, trying to see if Lightning will be able to strike twice in 2 weeks, as it will be Steinmiller leading us back to green, Jeff Green in second, Kyle Johnson there in third. I'm going to be very interested to see how he's going to be able to stay up with these drivers, because I got to think that he used up a lot of his Goodyear rubber on that last restart. He'll have Jake Hounshaw alongside him in fourth. Fifth is going to be Anthony Guarneri. Sixth, Bo Brady. Seventh is where we're going to find Peyton Hill with Seth Harrelson, Christopher Morse Jr., and Blaine Atkin completing the top 10. Currently 19 cars on the lead lap of 21 still running. Steinmiller leads them out of 4, back through the gears, and easily clears by about 2 car lengths before they get to the line.
Same restart as last time, same result, but luckily that outside groove did not get completely stalled out. It's still side-by-side action for third place. Kyle Johnson trying to get by Jake Hounshell, and both these drivers have already made contact with one another, and we'll see how they're going to be racing. Kyle Johnson has moved Jake before. We'll see if Jake's going to retaliate in any way.
Like for the moment, the two of them will have some distance between them, about half a car length, maybe a full car length there for a brief moment on the front straightaway as Hounshell battles back. The bright red Bobby Allison throwback of Bo Brady waiting in the wings as this battle for second, now nose to tail again.
Yeah, I mean, these guys up front, they're going to just continue to battle back and forth, just really not giving an inch. And Jeff Green understanding, hey, if I'm going to make a pass, I need to make it now to get up front.
Yeah, Jeff Green ran towards the front for most of the Bristol race, but he made the move when it counted, 3 wide going into turn 3 with about 5 laps to go. Was able to hold off the rest of the field to pick up that victory as the battle for third place again going on between Kyle Johnson and Jake Hounshell. I think right there you see the 88 not really able to hold the bottom. That might be because he used up so much of his tires on that last start, and now he really scrubs the wall there on the front straightaway.
Yeah, that was a hard hit for the 88. Already has lost about 4 or 5 positions. Going to be losing even more. And Kyle Johnson now going to be very defensive, blocking the 3, and now trying to get under the hill there, but not able to do so. But you got to be careful when trying to block some of these drivers. You know that they're You know, some of these machines back here might not have been up front all race, but certainly know how to use that chrome nose.
The way that Dover is, you cannot drive frustrated because it's just going to make your condition worse and worse. I think that's what we saw with that block there on the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. Kyle Johnson, frustrated he made that mistake, lost all those spots, and wasn't going to give up anymore.
Yeah, now Campbell behind those drivers, almost being pinched by the 7 of McLaren, and then also be able to get by Seth Harlson. That looks like he might have gotten into the wall. But, I mean, you just look in the middle of the field, you're going to be seeing a lot of that unknowing of where you feel comfortable. If you make a mistake, are you going to be hurting yourself only, or could you be hurting the rest of the field behind you?
Talked about Anthony Guarneri.
Oh, Kyle Johnson in the wall again! Even harder this time, and it just continues to get worse. Christopher Morse Jr. was there, got a little bit of right front damage, but able to continue on.
And there were pieces coming off the race car there. That right front quarter panel, I think, is littered over on the front straightaway. So that hit, you're right, a lot more heavier of an impact for Kyle Johnson. And there's going to come to a point where the car is going to only take so much.
Yeah, it's that front end. Really expecting that front tire to possibly break at some point if he continues to hit it like he's been doing. But this is what we were talking about with the fact that it's just going to get worse and worse. But still, keep an eye on that 88 machine if he gets into the wall. But he's running a little bit high this time. Got to be careful of that outside wall. McLaren and also Harlson, they got to be worried.
Anthony Guarneri going back to the 16 as he's actually in a battle now with Blaine Akin, a Richmond winner. And Guarneri in the last 4 weeks has picked up 7 spots in the standings. No, correction, 8 spots in the standings. He was 15th going into Texas, and he now finds himself 7th in the point standings after 2 great runs at back-to-back short tracks. Right now trying to reel in Bo Brady as he holds down that 5th position, and that 88 continues to fall back. He just lost a spot to Peyton Hill. He's now under fire from the 7 of Jackson McLaren.
Yeah, that's because he got into the wall again. I mean, this 88 machine struggling more and more. Seth Harlson actually brushed the wall in entry of 3, and the middle of the field is just chaotic, especially here for the battling that's going on from 9th on back. You got about 6 cars. They got to be nervous. They're side-by-side racing. That's Kyle Johnson able to make the pass, but he's drifting up and now rubbing on the 84.
Yeah, he's having a tough time holding the inside line there. He's got them stacked up. Michael Norman's now in this group. Also the 10 of Peyton Hamlet. So you've got about 6 or 7 machines all in close proximity, which means if a wreck touches off, there may not be any opportunity to avoid a wreck, as now it's Harlson, I think, just got the wall there.
Yeah, and it looked like there Norman was following the 07, and he might have brushed the wall as well. So these drivers, it is very difficult on the way they're trying to race themselves up front.
Might have been another car that got the wall off of 2. Bo Brady just lost a couple of positions to Gerald Campbell and Christopher Morse Jr., dropping him from 6th back to 8th.
Yeah, both the 25 and the 3, just waiting and watching other drivers make mistakes as they're trying to just march their way forward. And we'll continue to see Jeff Green, though. It looks like this 2 machine, either he's got, I'm going to check to see if he got into the wall, but he has been caught and passed by Jake Houshell.
He talked about 2 drivers that are in practically must-win situations to keep their championship hopes alive, Hank Steimel and Jake Houshell. Well, they started on the front row. They're now back up to 1st and 2nd place. Campbell currently in the 6th position, and there's quite a wad of cars around him with Akin, Campbell, Christopher Morse Jr., as well as the 16 just ahead of them that they're reeling in of Anthony Guarneri.
Yeah, we know that, Blaine Akin has been aggressive, cutting his way through traffic from the start of the race, but now you've got the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. is right at the back. Looks like it's going to be Peyton Hill in the 84 machine, and around that pack of machines we were talking about, Kyle Johnson might have been the driver to push the 84 around.
Sliding on the front straightaway, but on the brakes quickly enough. I don't think he made contact with the inside wall, so Peyton Hamlet, nice job of keeping that car in one piece as we'll go back and see what happened to the NOS Chevrolet off of turn 4.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson just did not care, and there was contact with the 84. It was a pancake into the wall on that left side and on the right side. So we'll see how the 84 is going to be reacting here, but man, that was hard racing for around 9th place.
Was hard racing. The 84 pushes up 88 gets a nice run him off of 4. The problem that I have with that is he just never got off of the left rear quarter panel. He was on that left rear for a couple of feet. And I think he did have room to maybe back off a little bit. The car that was behind him of Peyton Hamlet, I think there was enough daylight that he could have actually lifted. But to your point, I think the 88 was kind of in not care mode at that point. He's just trying to keep that car underneath him and keep him in the position that he was at after getting to the wall multiple times during this run.
Pits road is getting busy. Some of our front runners all coming into the pits. It's going to be Blaine Atkin also coming in. That's Harrelson, Houndshell, Green, all coming in. We'll see if they take tires or just fuel. But this is around the time that if you're going to be going for the 2-stop for this race and needing tires, now's the time.
Gerald Campbell, Christopher Morse Jr., Bo Brady, they're all staying out. So what are they thinking? Maybe around lap 75 when they would make their only pit stop of the day?
Yeah, I think that's their mentality is, hey, let's split this thing in half. Make sure, just in case those final 30 laps, we've got a tire set to work with, and that advantage over the drivers that are pitting earlier now, who you now know are going with that 2-tire stop.
We mentioned in the last 2 races that our previous 2 winners started outside of the top 10. One of the storylines that has happened at not only the past 2 short tracks, but if we go back to Richmond and Bristol as well, a lot race leaders come down pit road and find themselves back in traffic. And usually the dominant car of the race at the short track sometimes isn't up there in the hunt for the win at the finish. So this 63 of Hank Steinmiller, the 02 of Jake Houndshell, they're putting their hopes in the fact that everybody up there inside of the top 9 going to be able to keep it together ahead of them, or if a wreck does happen, that they're going to be able to maneuver their way through, because they're kind of back in a hornet's nest right now.
Kyle Johnson, I think he wanted to pit with that group and was not able to, and now going to be starting all the way at the end of the line and also going to be taking some tires for the 88 machine.
Or would the 88 possibly be coming down pit road by himself, serving an EOL, maybe for bringing out that caution?
Might have been a manual EOL that was being given to the 88. It's hard to tell. Also looks like trying to get some damage repair done for the 88 machine. Peyton Hill also coming in this time by for the 84. So now we're going to be left with a total of 8 drivers on old tires and being led in 9th place. It's going to be Hank Steinmiller with the freshest of tires. And we've already seen aggressive racing by Jeff Green, Kyle Johnson, Blaine Atkin. But now we get to see what our pole sitter, who's just been dominating, how well is this 63 going to be driving in traffic and with that dirty air?
Yeah, exactly. He's been out in clean air for these first 45 laps or so. So, yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how he's going to deal with that tight condition, as he's kind of grown accustomed to driving that 63 one-way here for the beginning stages of this race. Lucky dog under this caution is going to be the 85 of James Goshen. So he will now find himself 2 laps down. Update on Randy Koken in the 19. We saw the damage that he did not come to pit road for prior to that last restart. Well, under that last run, he did come down pit road. Now finds himself 13 laps down, currently tied with Cooper Johnson as far as laps down. Cooper right now 20th, Randy Koken in 21st. The drivers that are up inside of the top 10 with staying out, it's going to be Gerald Campbell, the race leader, Christopher Morse Jr. in 2nd, Bo Brady 3rd, Seth Harrelson in 4th, Michael Norman is 5th, David White in 6th, Shane Lake and James Roth. That's going to be the 8 drivers that stayed out, with Hank Steinmiller and Jake Houndshell lining up in row 5 in 9th and 10th.
I'm going to keep an eye out around that 8th positions. James Roth has not looked comfortable at all this race, and I don't know if that Ford machine is going to be doing well in the center of the whole entire field. This is going to be interesting to see as well around a lot of aggressive drivers that are most likely going to just try to move a lot of these drivers on older tires, but they're getting ready and set to go as Gerald Campbell already away and gone with over a 3-4 car length lead over Bo Brady and Christopher Morse Jr.
And he caught Christopher Morse Jr. napping so much that Morse Jr. might lose 2nd place to Bo Brady, and he will out of turn 2.
Already from 9th up to 7th. Hank Steinmiller just taking off, but a lot of drivers behind him kind of stalled out and not able to make the passes as fast as they wanted to. David White, though, in the middle of the field, up to the wall and brushing it in the center of 3 and 4.
Green's going to get around the 83. Now Shane Lake going to try and make the pass in a battle for 8th. Ooh, David looking a little loose there into turn 1, but There's Blaine Atkin in the 05, Anthony Guarneri in the 16. A little bit more difficulty for those two drivers getting through traffic. They now crack the top 10.
Yeah, and right now, Roth already back to the end of the
Michael
line.
Norton in the wall off the floor.
Ooh.
I think he kept it straight, though. We remain green. Three-way battle for second.
Lake up into the wall again, up in the center of 1 and 2. That's going to be hurting the 81, who continues to drop back. And this is expected for those drivers on the older tires on how fast they're dropping back. But Hank Steinmiller, Jeff Green, they're already up to 3rd and 5th. I mean, 4th and 5th.
They have hooked the bottom through 3 and 4, made the pass on Seth Harrelson, now go to work on Bo Brady. They're now up into the top 5. Next on their hit list is that bright orange Wheaties Chevrolet of Christopher Morse Jr. for what would be 2nd and 3rd.
Jeff Green is now going to be close enough with them having to slow up just a little bit to get by the older tire drivers. It's allowed Jeff Green to stay close to Steinmiller this time around. We'll see if he wants to use that bumper to get up front and past the 63 or is just content to follow in suit.
The second duo of Guarneri and Blaine Atkin now working their way up to 6th and 7th as Hank Steinmiller right on the bumper of Gerald Campbell. Campbell trying to pinch them down, but I don't think he's going to have the run on corner exit. There you see that straightaway speed with the fresh rubber for Hank Steinmiller going into 1.
Yeah, it's really what you were talking about with the exit speed that you can just carry so much more. As that's going to be Peyton Hill after getting some damage repair, finally getting back on course as our leader is passing by. But Steinmiller to the point, and now Jeff Green just digging it to the inside, but not able to really hold strong, get a little bit loose to the center of 3 and 4.
Steinmiller did a great job working his way from 9th back up to the race lead, but Jeff Green stuck with him pace for pace. Those two separated by 2/10. Behind them, though, we got a good battle brewing between two drivers that are on the same lap of tires. This would be for 6th place. Jake Hounshaw looks in his rearview mirror, sees that bright blue 05 of Blaine Atkin.
Yeah, Atkin going to be trying to make a charge here, but caution's going to be happening in the back. Bo Brady goes around.
Hard into the outside wall there in turn 4. Another car to the inside wall. That's the 10 of Peyton Hamlet.
Wow, that is one of the more weird spots to see a wreck. Peyton Hamlet on fresher tires deciding to run high and running right into Bo Brady. He had plenty of room to go on the inside. Just an odd positioning, and that's a wreck that should not have happened.
Look at it here on the back straightaway. Brady letting Kyle Johnson by on those fresh tires, and wow, you're right. I mean, there was a huge amount of closing rate, but it wasn't as if Bo Brady hadn't left the door open down low for the fresh tires of Peyton Hamlet to get by, and rear end damage there on the back of the Miller Chevrolet. Peyton Hamlet really paid the biggest price out of it all, getting that left front damage.
Yeah, we'll see if there's any engine damage that goes to the 10 machine, but that is one of the more ridiculous wrecks that we've seen because, like you said, there was plenty of space there. And, I mean, Bo Brady was already on the high side trying to let the 88 car go. It's not like he's going to try to defend that with the older tires he's on, but possibly Hamlet just didn't know the situation that he was in and just thought, hey, I'll stay on the high side. I've been slow all race, but not recognizing old tires against new.
And on board there with the 10 of Peyton Hamlet, and it really looked like his entry into turn 3 just was way too wide and might have carried a little too much speed going into that corner. And of course that right front's going to slide, and if it doesn't turn down to the inside, that's probably why he ended up running into the back of the 20 machine. But to your point, really a wreck that should not have happened because a lot of drivers did a good job with those fresh tires of making their way by the drivers with the older tires, and we almost were able to get ourselves into another long green flag run there. But this is going to be a caution that drivers like Campbell, Harrelson, Norman, Lake, White, that they had stayed out. Now they're going to come down pit road and take advantage of their first set of fresh tires.
Yeah, now they're going to be having a little bit of a slight advantage, about 9-lap fresher tires than the rest of the field. And, you know, looking at how the cars were transitioning, I think that's a good call on their part. I think everyone now setting up for the 2-tire stop. I mean, for the 2 stops for this race. And I got to say, you know, just because of how much wear and tear they're feeling out here at Dover with the slipping and sliding that they're feeling, it kind of makes sense for them to be using up their tires and really not in a save mode mentality.
So now we're going to be momentarily within the next 15 laps entering into the second half of this race. And I think we're going to see something that we saw in the early stages of this season where drivers had to kind of figure out when they were going to take on that second set. We saw what Hank Steinmiller was able to do. He got from 9th up to the race lead in a matter of about 5 laps. I almost wonder if some of these drivers might think about waiting until even 40, 30 laps to go to take on that final set for a late race restart, but we can't guarantee that there is going to be a late race restart. So it's kind of a catch-22 for some of these drivers.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the mentality of, hey, we saw Steinmiller make that ultimate charge with Green behind him, and they were battling cars that were on 45-lap-old tires compared to their fresh ones that they had. Now it's going to be a good idea of how well is Gerald Campbell going to be doing, as well as Seth Harrelson and these drivers that just took their 4 tires, and with about 10-lap to 12-lap difference, how well can they cut their way through our top 8?
James Goshen is going to get the lucky dog under this caution, so the 85 will now find himself -1 on this restart. So he's close to being back on the lead lap, as top 10 now, after the drivers that were inside of the top 10 coming to pit road, it'll be Hank Steinmiller and Jeff Green the front row, Anthony Guarneri and Jake Counchell row 2, Blaine Atkin completes top 5, Jackson McLaren's now up to 6th with Kyle Johnson and Jason Hounshell in 7th and 8th, James Roth in 9th, and the fresh tires of Gerald Campbell will be on the outside of row 5 in 10th position. Nice comeback run there for the 00 of Jason Hounshell after we saw him get that left front damage that did not bring out a caution on the back straightaway.
Also for note, James Roth has not pitted for tires at all this race. 61-lap-old tires. How well are the fresher tires able to get past the 4 machines going to be on the inside?
Yeah, he pitted about 30 laps ago. It was only to repair damage as Hank Steinmiller gets us back underway. He's going to leave Jeff Green. Battle side by side. It's going to be for 3rd.
And it's going to be between Jake Hounshell and Anthony Guarneri, and it looks like Hounshell going to be backing off. But here comes Blaine Atkin, just charging with that 05. And this is the best chance that he's had all race long to try to get up front.
Did you say Blaine Atkin aggressive on a restart? I can't believe it. He's going to move up to the 4th spot there around Hounshell. Highest that 05 has run yet today.
Gerald Campbell already up to 7th place, and also Kyle Johnson running in 6th. We'll see if Johnson's going to be giving any favors with contact made as Kyle Johnson able to save, and Jason goes spun around by Norman.
Caution's going to fly for the 5th time here tonight at Dover. And that was just a case there. If you're not going to let me by, I'm going to force my way by. Between the 25 and the 88.
What brought out our caution was Michael Norman absolutely spinning out, Jason.
Getting ready to go back, green flag racing here at Dover as Hank Steinmiller ready to lead us close to the second half of this race. Lap 68 about to go onto the board as he and Jeff Green get us back underway.
Ooh, a little bit of hesitation by the 63, and it's going to be hurting that outside line, and also a little bit of contact being made by Jeff Green. But it's going to be Gerald Campbell ducking it low, trying to already get by Blaine Atkin, and Atkin, because of that hesitation, wasn't able to do his aggressive restarts.
Jeff Green trapped on that outside line now. Gerald Campbell to the bottom. He's going to try and take 3rd place. Green drops back to 4th. Hounshell back to 5th. We were unable to show you what happened there between the 10 of Peyton Hamlet and the 6 of Michael Norman, but Peyton is still on the lead lap, running
Caution
in
to the back
position, and it looks like Harrelson's going to be the reason for this one.
I talked about how just when race time comes around, the 07 seems to be caught up in something, and bad luck strikes again, gets into the outside wall, not able to save it, hard into the inside wall as well here on the front stretch.
Seth Harrelson. You talked about it. His qualifying efforts have been on point. He has qualified in the top 10 in the last 3 races, but off of turn 4, man, and I almost think that has to maybe be a little bit of the aero push that these drivers are feeling, maybe in the wake of that 81 of Shane Lake.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's just that tightness, even with fresh tires, it's still there, and we were seeing that with Kyle Johnson early on in this race of he just kept on, getting into that outside wall and continues on here today.
It's a helpless feeling here, too, because right here at this point, coming off the corner, you can see that Seth Harrelson was kind of feeling that it was not turning, and you saw him continuing to try and turn the wheel left. Probably got off the throttle a little bit there too, but once that thing goes straight, there's very little opportunity to be able to slow it down enough where it's going to turn and not hit that outside wall.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure out the right time to get into the gas in certain angles, and if you have the wrong entry, it can really mess up your apex, and if your apex is off once you get onto the throttle, it just throws you into that outside wall, and it's kind of what we saw there. Like you said, if you get into the throttle, you kind of get into a point where there's no turning back. You're going to hit that wall.
Well, folks, we wanted to let you know that the sponsor for the Pole Award, the Juicebox Podcast, they've got a PlayStation 5 raffle going on, $40 per ticket. You may purchase more than one, and only 50 tickets will be sold. Boy, I'm doing a great job on this ad read. Here at Green, we had a near incident up there in turns 1 and 2 involving the 16 of Anthony Guarneri. He's been able to recover the car after brushing the wall, but all the way back to 15th place.
Yeah, and with that contact, it also involved Cooper Johnson, who's 13 laps down, trying to get those laps back, but at least still in the lead lap, able to continue running. But up front, it's Gerald Campbell, Hank Steinmiller, and also Blaine Atkin, Jeff Green, and Jake Hounshell that are just running so well up front. But Christopher Morris Jr., he's still looming in 6th place, hasn't really shown any of his strengths yet, but I think this 3 might be doing the same strategy that he did last week.
Now into the second half of this race. 73 laps to go here at Dover. Was mentioning just before we had some problems there about the Juicebox Podcast having a PlayStation 5 raffle, and you can take a look there at the bottom left of your screen. All the information you need to know to be able to be in that raffle. Of course, the Juicebox Podcast, the sponsor of our Pole Award, which Hank Steinmiller won earlier on tonight. He's trying to go coast to coast, but man, he's got a rear deck lid full of that DuPont Chevrolet.
Remember, Gerald Campbell, he was up front battling for our top 3 until he got shuffled all the way back to around 12th place, and he's been trying to work his way back up front, finally up to 2nd place. But Blaine Atkin and also Jake Hounshell, they're duking it out. A little bit of contact by the 0-2 on the 0-5.
And that might have actually stacked them up enough where Hounshell left the door open for Christopher Morris Jr. to stick his foot in. He'll now look for the 4th position. Jeff Green looming there in 6th.
And the more that they battle, the more that it's going to be bringing in the 88 of Kyle Johnson. But Johnson does have slight damage that has been hurting himself from being able to make any aggressive moves that he was doing earlier. Also, under the pacing of that last caution, Kyle Johnson was rubbing the wall multiple times under pacing. Maybe he just likes the wall that much that he just feels like he has to be there.
Well, we've been under the caution twice since having a little bit of some problems here, and that has allowed the 85 of James Goshen to get back on the lead lap. He's now battling for 14th place with Jason Hounshell. And we were looking just moments ago there at the 7 of Jackson McLaren. How about him up there currently in the 8th spot, trying to hunt down the 88 for 7th?
Yeah, during qualifying, you talked about how the 7 hunting and searching for his first top 10. Today's race might be it. And right now, looking at some of these drivers that are running up front, I mean, a pretty good day going on for Jackson McLaren.
Now, you mentioned about Hank Steinmiller, Gerald Campbell coming to pit road on separate cautions. Campbell, obviously, the advantage in terms of tires. But at what point do the tires even out?
I mean, I would say it starts to even out probably about 30 laps into a run, which that's where we're starting to see the tires start to equal out now. But, I mean, Gerald Campbell right now still on Steinmiller, and within 2/10, possibly could be trying to make a move for the lead here at any moment.
He is all over the back bumper of Steinmiller, but it looks like right now Gerald Campbell is more in the wait till he makes a mistake mode rather than be aggressive and try and take this race lead and maybe wreck the both of us in the attempt. As soon as I say that, though, right on the back bumper again of the 63.
Makes slight contact, but able to get onto the inside, and here comes that 25 machine. And he's on those fresher tires, as well as Christopher Morris Jr., and then everyone else behind him on a similar tire strategy of the older tires in those two, but fighting right back. Steinmiller to the inside.
Incredible that we have to go all the way back to last year when Gerald Campbell got his last win here in the Grand National Series, December 1st at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's been a bit of a winless streak for him as he's trying not only to pick up his second or make that his 3rd win of the season, he's also trying to lock up this championship here 1 week early.
Yeah, I mean, all he needs to do is just finish in front of Hank Steinmiller, and really, Campbell has got this thing locked up. Due to the fact that John Weitendorf did not show up for today's race, it made this championship all Gerald Campbell, as long as Campbell finishes in the top 15.
Battle for third closes up. Christopher Morse Jr. on the back bumper of Jake Hounshell. And if these two start to get side-by-side racing, I think that's going to bring 5th, 6th, and 7th into this and make it a 5-man fight for the final spot in the podium.
Yeah, we got to see two different driving styles with these fresher tires. I mean, we saw Gerald Campbell just being aggressive, bulling his way through. Christopher Morse Jr. has just been slow, methodic, all race long. He started all the way in the back half of the field, back in 20th place, the last car on the track for our grid, and now up to 3rd place for this 3 machine. And honestly, like I talked about earlier in the race, this is looking eerily similar to last week.
Now, it's not likely, but I'm going to throw out the scenario nonetheless. When we ended up having the group with Hank Steinmiller come to pit road and the group with Gerald Campbell come down pit road, both groups came down prior to the halfway point of this race. If we go green to the end, can any of these drivers, do you think, make it on fuel, or will their tires draw them to pit road at least one more time?
I think fuel-wise, they're good to make it to the end. It's the tires that we're mostly concerned about. All these drivers came in before lap around 60. The drivers that have been out there and still are looking for their first set of tires, that's James Goshen and James Roth. Both of those drivers still on the lead lap, but about to be put a lap down, and really, they got to be thinking, we got to pit here soon, and they were thinking the strategy of make sure they've got a set to work with later on.
Add another driver to the list of those that had a moment off of turn 4. I think Jake Hounshell nearly looped it around there because he was battling with Christopher Morse Jr. for 3rd. Next thing we know, he's falling back here rapidly to Blaine Akin and Jeff Green. He was actually almost down on the apron going into turn 1 at one point there.
Yeah, Jeff Green kind of looking a little irritated, being stuck behind the 0-5, wanting to go faster. Also, you got Kyle Johnson, who we saw being aggressive as well earlier on, but we'll have to wait and see how this group that is from 4th back to 7th place, how well they're going to be reacting with one another. But I talked about how lap traffic about to be a key. Probably here in the next 3 laps, we're going to be seeing some lap traffic for our front 3.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because if you remember back last week at Iowa, it was lap traffic that, in a way, played a factor into Christopher Morse Jr. able to make the move that he did to make the pass for the eventual win. He was able to kind of use the lap machine as a little bit of a pick to be able to get a run to make said pass. So we may see that again. As now 4 of James Roth. First time he's going to take on a set of tires. Just saw that 4 machine duck onto pit road, but it's under green flag conditions, Sam. That's at least 2 laps he's probably going to lose.
Yeah, and honestly, it's going to be way more hurting the 4 for him staying out as long as he did. I think that last caution was his timing to come into the pits, but you know, we always threw it out of you can try to hope and bank on a caution coming out, but most of the time, a caution isn't always going to be your friend, and sometimes we can go green for a little bit longer. Already 2 laps down is James Roth. Most likely we'll go 3 laps down due to the fact that he was already about to be put a lap down himself. As drivers coming up to lap traffic, Dave White in the 83 going to be their first victim to be put in a lap down here. As drivers are still looming, but Christopher Morse Jr. on the back bumper of Steinmiller.
And a 3-way battle back there as well for the 7th position. Don't make that 8th position with Bo Brady, Michael Norman, and Jackson McLaren as Roth comes back onto the racetrack. Campbell darts to the inside of David White, and that might allow 2nd and 3rd to reel him in. Yeah, they gained about 2-3 tenths right there in the back straightaway.
Yeah, they are really coming on those drivers, and you gotta watch and make sure you've got to be careful, as this is going to be bringing a lot of action your way with some of these moves.
Peyton Hill in the 84, already multiple laps down. Next driver that Gerald Campbell's going to have to deal with. He will yield to the top side. Woo, went a little bit higher there than I think he expected to, as that looked like there was no grip in that upper groove. He almost slid up into the wall, did Peyton Hill.
James Roth with the much fresher tires now going to be trying to make the passes on our leaders, and now this is going to be hurting this is going to be hurting Hank Steinmiller a lot, and Christopher Morse Jr. as well going to be hurt by seeing the 4 car trying to pass our leaders.
Right now, things have gotten rather spread out through the field. The best battle right now is 2/10 separation, and that's between your current race leaders, Gerald Campbell and Christopher Morse Jr. Gerald Campbell trying to get some redemption from last week. He was the driver that Christopher Morse Jr. passed in the closing stages of that Iowa race. Morse trying to do it again for the second week in a row.
A little bit of a block there by the 25. Going to be running a little bit higher, but able to get the arch in the arcing into the corner, and now going to be beating out the 3. But Christopher Morse Jr., I talked about how he's been trying to be a little bit slower, not trying to use up those tires as much as we've been seeing Gerald Campbell. Campbell was just on go mode once we went green on that last restart. Now we'll see. Is it going to be saving your tires and protecting them, or just trying to be just blatantly faster than the rest of the field?
O'Grady, our Phoenix winner right now in 8th. He's being hunted down by Michael Norman, who currently is in 9th. Good run there for Michael, making only his 2nd start of the season here in the Grand National Series. And up ahead of them, Christopher Morse Jr. to the bottom on Gerald Campbell. I think he's making this move now because the 4 car is coming.
Yeah, and right now, Roth's got to just be patient. He's trying to lap one of his 3 lap down positions this time, but I don't know if our leaders recognize, hey, this car's got fresher tires, gotta let him by, or they're just saying, hey, stay behind us, you're a lap down machine.
James Roth right now trying to see if he can get a run on the 25 of Gerald Campbell, and if he can get to the inside of Gerald Campbell, you'd have to think that Hank Steinmiller would try and close up and take advantage of that, as Christopher Morse Jr., first time that he's been able to take the race lead. It took him about 100 laps to do so, starting from the very back of the pack, but now out in that clean air and showing the way here in the Ed Hounshell 150.
Yeah, I mean, started all the way back in last place for this race, doing the same exact thing that he did last week in Iowa, starting in last place, making the charge up front. But now the question of those tires is really going to be looming for these machines. When are they going to be allowing? But this time Campbell's got to go high to let the 4 go, and here goes Steinmiller putting his nose under the 25. Almost contact made.
Very close there between the right front of the 63, the left rear of the 25. Still Steinmiller sticking his nose in there. That is close off of 4.
Randy Koking might be a pick here for the 63, but they are able to get by.
Almost up into the wall was Randy Koken, and now he's going to go down to the apron.
Oh, did he just bring out a caution?
I'm not sure.
No, that's Kyle Johnson. Got into the wall.
David White in the 83 was in it as well.
It was going to be White initially getting into the wall, and Johnson nowhere to go, but gets hit. I believe it might have collected some other drivers as well, with Kyle Johnson not holding the brake. Peyton Hill. That is some wheelmanship trying to get through that carnage.
Smoke billowing out of the number 83 of David White. And yeah, this was a case of a lap machine trying to get out of the way of a lead lap car. Might have traversed up a little too high, and it was one of those cases that we talked about earlier where if a car gets tight behind another driver that gets into the wall, there's just nowhere to be able to go. And all that 83 of David White lost, Kyle Johnson to the back of him really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see one of the biggest scares, do it right along with the 84 machine. Just was following suit and wasn't sure where the 88 car was going because he was drifting up high onto the track. 84 had to come down, and then Kyle Johnson whips that 88 car down, and whoo, that's a scary moment.
On board here with Peyton Hill in that 84 machine, you're going to see up ahead 83 of David White. He is that white machine. The car behind him is the 88. Oh, gracious. That is a close call. You can't get any closer than that without plowing into somebody.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I saw the 84 car go through, I thought he took damage, but re-looking at it, there was no contact made from Peyton Hill with Kyle Johnson, nor was there contact with White, who was trying to pull away. But while we were looking at the replays, pit stops underway. Michael Norman going to be leading the group with 4 tires, and looking like it's also going to be Bo Brady following suit. But those are the 2 drivers that are on the lead lap that just came in for 4 tires.
So that would be their second and final set, which means that they are banking on the fact that either one of 2 things is going to happen. Either we're going to go green to the end, and these drivers aren't going to have the opportunity to come down and take on their second set, or A caution ends up coming out maybe with about 30 to go. Everybody comes down pit road. They stay out. They gain a ton of track position.
I mean, this is the move that won Bo Brady, like almost won him 4 races this season. He only won 1 at Phoenix, but there was a long string of races where Bo Brady went with the strategy of taking tires when everyone else didn't. But a lot of drivers switched it up.
Exactly. Yep. Second lap of caution. A lot of other drivers coming in now, including Steinmiller, Houndshell, Peyton Hamlet, Blaine Atkin, Jackson McLaren, Kyle Johnson, Shane Lake, Jason Houndshell, Anthony Guarneri. We only had, I believe, 3 drivers that look like they're officially going to stay out here. Just also want to update that the caution number up there on your top left is incorrect. It did reset itself. I believe we are currently under our 8th caution here today.
Yeah, also, I mean, Michael Norman as well as Bo Brady, they pitted earlier than everyone else, and now this is you talk about track position, they just gained over about 10 positions in that one move with pitting a lap earlier than everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. Steinmiller was up there inside of the top 5. Why would you come down pit road 1 lap later on the second lap of caution? I mean, is that the fuel situation? Is it you just trying to get that extra advantage of that 1 lap fresher tire? I'm not really sure what the strategy would be there, why that big group didn't come down the first lap that the pits were open.
I think it's a idea of, hey, our front 3, you got to do something different than what Gerald Campbell's going to do. And that's kind of what Steinmiller has to be thinking. Hey, Campbell's not coming in. I'm going to come in this time. And even though it might be losing some track position, still, you're going to have one of the freshest tires, one of the fastest cars here today, looking good for the 63.
Well, if we look back at the 2 previous races, the 2 previous short tracks that we've been to in the last 2 weeks, we end up seeing some cautions in the first half, but we see a lot of late race restarts in the second half. We're going to be getting this green flag with less than 50 laps to go. We are probably going to be going back green, I believe, with 41 official laps left. It's go time for a lot of these drivers, so I think that if you're going to make passes now, you're going to want to make them quickly because there may be very short spurts of green flag runs from here to the checkered.
Yeah, and also we're coming later into the season, right? I mean, if you've got some pent-up feelings of a driver that you got earlier on, this might be the time to try to retaliate in some fashion. Bump someone a little bit harder than you usually would, get them out of the way to gain a position, and we'll see how things go. But Christopher Morris Jr. immediately taking off on the green and already up to a 3-car length lead.
He's going to leave Gerald Campbell and Jeff Green to battle for second, but then there's fresh tires behind them. Bo Brady, Michael Norman leading that charge, and now it's going to stack them up. Whoa, is that Blaine Atkin?
Blaine Atkin!
Really loose.
Absolutely losing the front right bumper as it is ripped apart, getting high into the wall, and this is what we saw from practice. Blaine Atkin, he was having those issues, and it looks like it struck him here during the race.
He was able to broadside the outside wall, keeping it straight, so we remain green as he has now fallen back outside of the top 10. Side-by-side battle, Bo Brady and Jeff Green, a couple of drivers that duked it out at Bristol, with Jeff Green getting the advantage there, but Brady on the fresher tires, he'll move to 3rd. Michael Norman now going to follow in suit, he'll go to 4th.
Oh, it looked like Bo Brady might have scrubbed it off the wall, which is now going to be giving Michael Norman a chance to try to be the lead car of the fresh tires. But Christopher Morris Jr.'s yellow's coming out.
We have a car that's falling back there. That's the 02 of Jake Houndshell, but it's actually the 88 of Kyle Johnson over in turn 1 that brings out this yellow flag.
Well, it looks like Kyle Johnson trying to figure out how to get by the 84 possibly here, and looses the 84, and away the 88 and 84 go.
These two made some contact earlier on in this race as well, in the same corner, if I'm not mistaken. This time, though, just a case of Peyton Hill getting loose and the 88 having nowhere to go, but kind of ironic the two make some contact in the same corner again.
Yeah, I mean, even from the start of this restart, it was really, Peyton Hill did not look comfortable. That car was loose and just out of control, and it just continued on every single corner. And that time around, Kyle Johnson trying to get by the 84, but just not able to.
I want to go back and see what happened here. This wiggle by Blaine Atkin. We saw just the tail end of it there on our screen, and this was going into turn 1, and he just tried to power around the outside. You see the back end step out. no grip there in that second groove, it seemed.
Whoa! Retaliation underway under Pacey, and just watched Kyle Johnson purposely wrecked Peyton Hill while we were under pacing.
We've seen that Kyle Johnson has been frustrated this race. We've seen it in his driving style after a couple of mistakes getting into the wall off of turn 4. And you talked about the fact, using a short track as an opportunity to be able to get some payback, and we just had it here.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, before I saw that, I was about to say, if you right at the end of Blaine Atkins' issue, you can see the start of what happened to Peyton Hill on that restart. He just was completely loose and was trying to save it the whole entire run. Wasn't able to, but Kyle Johnson just fed up with how this race went and just said, I'll take you out, 84 machine. And issue is Kyle Johnson still in pit road getting damage repairs, and Peyton Hill still racing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration of the 88, but if you go back to the first incident between the two, you maybe could put it on the 84 for checking up, and you could maybe put it on the 88 for not getting off the left rear quarter panel. But that last thing we just saw there's nobody at fault. We've seen drivers have had difficulty off of turn 4 with the loose condition. 84 did not purposely turn left down across the nose of the 88. He was completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone should know, it's Kyle Johnson. He's ran into the wall so many times this race and done it himself that, yes, you got caught up with someone else's issue, but I mean, that's just racing. That happens. That is some of the luck that you are going to be needing, and retaliating in that type of a fashion is just uncalled for on his part. And I get it that he's frustrated, but you could have come back in some fashion. Instead, you're going to ruin your car even more than it was, and now still in pit road getting damage repaired.
And we don't know if maybe something's going to carry over, maybe penalty-wise, here today into next week. We'll have to follow up on that. But Gerald Campbell continues to stay out. The two other drivers that had stayed out with him, they came to pit road. Christopher Morris Jr., and I believe the other one was
That was Christopher Morris Jr. and Jeff Green.
Oh, Jeff Green, you're right. And the two who will be back in 11th and 12th place. So Campbell, wow, this rhymes, but Campbell taking a bit of a gamble here because he's got much older tires than everybody else behind him. But again, as we saw earlier on in this race, Hank Steinmiller was able to cut his way through the field. That might be what Gerald Campbell is thinking about right now, unless he's not planning on coming to pit road at all for the remainder of this race.
I mean, we always talk about it. 20 laps to go. If a caution comes out in that time frame, if you've got an extra set, that's when you're taking it. And honestly, it's not a bad call, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of cars that are going to be not given a lot of room, like you've been seeing previously when you saw, Steinmiller making his charge earlier in the race. A lot of drivers are going to be just staying where they're at, and you're going to have to move them as harshly as you have to make room for yourself if you're going to be moving and cutting through the field.
But if you're able to hold them off for just a couple of corners and another caution comes out and another caution comes out and these laps tick away under pacing where you don't have to defend that race lead, that could be something Gerald Campbell's thinking about as well.
Yeah, but the longer this thing goes, the more you got to worry about wheel spin. And if you get a little bit too antsy getting onto the throttle, spin your tires, and you could be costing yourself this race. But pace car lights are off. We're going this time by Gerald Campbell, taking the outside this time around, which is an interesting call. But see what the 25 can do here with the 20 inside of him.
It's a much different looking top five than we had at the beginning of the race. Campbell, Brady, Hamlet, Norman, and McLaren the top five as the green flag back in the air here with now less than 35 to go.
Campbell just trying to get as big of a launch as possible, but Payne Hamlet gets a little loose on entry, and now it's going to be stacking everyone up behind him.
There's Blaine Atkins, 0-5. That caution really saved him. He's now up in the 6th position, trying to swing around the outside of McLaren. That would be for 5th place. Norman, he's trying to get 3rd as he gets off of 4th. Tries to get the inside of Bo Brady for the 3rd position.
Great save there by Michael Norman, not to overturn, but here goes Blaine Atkin, who's just going to force his way, forcing the 6 up. And here comes Blaine Atkin, even though he's got that front and left, front and right damage, still pushing on. Also, Anthony Graneri.
Oh, no!
Christopher Morse Jr.
right on board with the 3, watching him try and cut his way through traffic, trying to do it patiently, but contact between himself and McLaren sends him up into the wall. And
Michael Norman spinning in front of the field. Oh, and there goes Goshen as well. Yellow flag out in a huge collision. Multiple cars involved.
Jason Hounshell gets collected up, as well as Shane Lake in the 81. At least 4 cars involved in this one after Michael Norman spin over in turn 1.
Michael Norman spun around, which stalled out the cars behind him. Not sure where the 6 was going to go. And then the 85 getting a little bit of help from the 14 that just didn't know what was going on. Shane Lake had nowhere to go. Jason Hounshell. Oh, man, that is a lot of fast machines caught up in that one.
And the driver that we saw have the issue just prior to that of Christopher Morris Jr. got a huge chunk of that wreck. We're going to first look back at the contact between himself and Jackson McLaren, since we really didn't see an outlook camera view. We were on board at the time. Then we'll look at the incident going into turn 1. Christopher Morris Jr. looked like he wanted to go around the outside, and it almost looks like the right front on that 7 machine just started smoking and it never turned. It happens with Michael Norman and company up here in turn 1. Oh, wow, Michael was just up into the wall almost the entire front straightaway.
Yeah, he was just struggling, and it can just continue on from that point on. And now the drivers...
Michael's spin kind of caused a follow-up wreck. He actually didn't start the wreck over there in turn 1. Everybody wrecked trying to avoid the spinning 6, who actually made a heck of a save over there in 1 and 2.
Yeah, it was Goshen that just got absolutely demolished by Cooper Johnson, which is going to be putting him out. We do have another DNF officially. Randy Kokine has parked it for the day. But more drivers coming into the pits this time by. Gerald Campbell has pitted and will now be in 9th place with the freshest of tires. We'll see how this 25 machine can try to march his way forward.
Couple more drivers. You mentioned Kokine. Another driver that got a piece of that incident was the 4 of James Roth, and we're about to see how the 3 of Christopher Morris Jr. gets involved as the 14 of Cooper Johnson, as he was spinning back down the racetrack. I believe he is the one that collects up guys like Kokine, Shane Lake, and Jake Hounshell. Actually, no, it's Shane Lake that gets hit by the 3. Johnson gets hit by the 4.
Well, you know, we talked about how the top 5, it just keeps on changing. It's a revolving door of who's up there now. Peyton Hamlet, this 10 machine. What an eventful day it's been for him. Not the best start. Was caught up in getting into the wall early on. Now leading this race with Bo Brady, Blaine Atkin, Anthony Graneri, and the 2 of Jeff Green, your top 5.
And we know that Peyton Hamlet has gotten some bumps and scrapes along the way here in this race. He had a spin on the front straightaway, was able to avoid hitting the inside wall. So for 120 laps at Dover, that car looks relatively clean. We'll have to see if it's going to be able to transport him, if not to a win here today at Dover. As we've been talking about, he's still looking for his first top 10 finish of the season. As a matter of fact, I believe he is one of 3 drivers that are inside of the top 25 in the standings that still have not gotten a top 10 finish, and he might be able to put a crooked number in that column here today.
Looks like Kyle Johnson was able to get back on course, and he is continuing to hit the 84 machine. So we'll see if admins are going to be parking the 88, but this is now getting ridiculous.
Kyle Johnson on pit road again in that 88 machine, 7 laps down. Peyton Hill, 7 laps down as well. So those 2 technically at this point would be battling for the 17th position. Actually checked that with the 88 now on pit road. He loses another lap, so Peyton Hill would be in 17th place. Long extended stay for Christopher Morris Jr. Looks like he will not be able to pull the double in 2 weeks of going to victory lane after getting involved in not 1 but 2 wrecks there on the same lap. Currently has spent about 4 plus minutes on pit road getting damage repaired, as now your front 2 are Peyton Hamlet and Bo Brady, Blaine Atkin and Anthony Guarneri in row 2, Jeff Green and Jake Hounshell row 3, row 4 Jackson McLaren, Michael Norman, then the fresh tires of Gerald Campbell, will be rolling off from the 9th position. Same place that we saw Hank Steinmiller work his way up to the front with fresh tires. That was about, 50, 60 laps ago.
We'll see how these drivers are going to be able to march their way forward. Peyton Hamlet taking us to the green, and it looks like on the high side, Granary did not get going, nor did Michael Norman, so the high side going to be backing off. But here comes Wayne Atkin, so known for these great restarts, now up to 2nd place.
He's going to get by Bo Brady and put the pressure on the 10 machine as early as off of turn 2. Looking to the inside down the back straightaway. I'm not sure if he's quite there yet. But yes, he is, because Peyton Hamlet couldn't hold the bottom through 3 and 4.
Hamlet may have been feeling a little bit of pressure from the drivers that have been up front all race long. Granary continuously getting into the outside wall. Got to be careful. But also, it's going to be Gerald Campbell already up to 6th place.
We saw what happened with the fresh tires of Christopher Morse Jr. putting him back in traffic. The end result of that, Campbell trying to make sure he tiptoes his way through this front running order and doesn't tear up his race car with those fresh Goodyears.
Bo Brady trying to pinch Jeff Green and almost taking each other out. Gerald Campbell forcing it, going to be trying to get under the 16, but really Bo Brady and Jeff Green, the contact, it could possibly be looming for those drivers.
And you see that damage there on the right rear of the 20 of Bo Brady. I'd have to think, even though it's rather short straightaways here at Dover, that's...
Oh, he came down to Campbell!
They save it! No! Up into the wall goes the 20, and he's going to get the 16 of Guarneri.
No! Steinmiller involved! That could be the championship win!
Oh, man.
More cars stacking up Roth into Hill.
They're still wrecking on the front straightaway. The 84, the 4, 63 was involved, as we know. The 00 of Jason, or make that rather the 7 of Jackson McLaren. He got a piece of it into the right rear. All of a sudden, we're getting some really torn up race cars here, getting closer to the end of this race.
Steinmiller nowhere to go, runs right into Granary. Shane Lake involved, Cooper Johnson, Peyton Hill wasn't able to hold the brake, took out 2 drivers with the contact that he had taken. Oh man, Gerald Campbell, I mean, he's all I can do is just hold his line, and Bo Brady just, I mean, that is such a difficult moment, but everyone's trying to stay aggressive and pinch the way that they can, but Bo Brady came down into the 25.
Yeah, he definitely did. And then shot up into the wall, nowhere for the 16 of Anthony Guarneri to be able to go. He was the one that slid down the racetrack, as we'll see here, collecting up Shane Lake and the 63 of Hank Steinmiller. And we'll look and see just how heavy the impact was for Steinmiller. Wow, that was almost at full speed there. No reaction time for Hank Steinmiller, who up to this point has done a great job of keeping his nose relatively clean. And to your point, that could be the championship trophy right there, said and done, regardless of what happens next week at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I mean, Hank Steinmiller was in a must-win scenario. He was the closest with 125 points back from our leader. And coming into this race, I mean, it wasn't... Hank Steinmiller, even if Gerald Campbell finished back in 20th place, last car running in this race, Steinmiller was only going to gain about 80 points or so. So it was about to cut it down to possibly 40 points if maximum points were given. But this is not good for Steinmiller. Weitendorf not showing up is also just gifting this championship to Gerald Campbell. But Campbell, he's got 2 wins this season, both at the mile and a half. He's been consistent everywhere else that he's been. And now here at Dover, chaos reigns, as now we don't know who's going to be running by the end of this thing.
Yeah, we still got 20 laps. It'll be about less than 20 laps when we actually go back green flag racing, so still plenty of time for drivers that at this point look like they're still in the running to very well end their day on the tow hook. We had a driver on pit road. His car was smoking. Not sure who that was. Might have been the 83 of David White, as Kyle Johnson, Christopher Morse Jr., Anthony Guarneri, they sit on pit road. I mean, pit road's maybe got just as many cars as the racetrack does right now.
Steinmiller just had to pull it into pit road, leaving us with 10 cars that are still on the lead lap. We'll see if it continues like that. Kyle Johnson has been parked and has left the race. He'll be finishing back in 19th place, but a lot of machines in pit road trying to get damage repaired as quick as possible before we go green. These car lights are still on. But this is not looking good for a lot of these drivers. But Peyton Hamlet has to be a little scared because Blaine Atkin looks ready and poised to go for this position and trying to get up front as fast as possible. So he doesn't have to worry about Jeff Green or any of the other drivers with the fresher tires.
Just to remind everybody here that the Juicebox podcast having a PlayStation 5 raffle. We'll let you take a look at that information once again. And just to kind of play off of your point there, this 10 of Peyton Hamlet, it's great to see him up front, but the one thing that I noticed about him when he got us restarted the last time, as opposed to every other driver that's been the race leader on a restart, he was not able to get the launch that drivers like Jeff Green and Gerald Campbell and Hank Steinmiller have been able to get here today. We had Bo Brady right on his back bumper over in turns 3 and 4 on the restart lap. So he's got to nail this restart right here if he's going to hold off these other drivers. Otherwise, to your point, we know how good Blaine Atkin is on these restarts. He is going to take advantage if that 10 car has a stumble.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that he's versing Blaine Atkin, who has been known as one of the best drivers to have restarts. And he also got Gerald Campbell, who's just as good on the outside following the 0-5. So both of those drivers can really get good starts here. The question for me is, how well is Jeff Green going to be following this 10 machine on this restart here?
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. Jeff Green has been up here in the top 5 most of this race. And don't count out that 0-2 of Jake Hounshell still. He's still there in that 5th position. I know we haven't really seen him at the front of the field, but he has been up inside the top 4 pretty much this entire race. So he could be a sleeper here, especially if things get really racy up inside of your first 2 rows. As Peyton Hamlet gets us back underway, a little bit better of a restart there as he'll clear Blaine Atkin, but he doesn't scamper away.
Oh boy. I thought for a second Jeff Green was just going to send that 0-5 around with the way Blaine Atkin cut that nose. I don't think Jeff Green was a fan of that move. We'll see if there's going to be any other contact that happens.
We've seen the 20 of Bo Brady, who did not come to pit road under that caution. Despite getting all that front end damage, he stayed out and he tanked through the field there on that restart lap.
Yeah, it's continuing to look bad. Gerald Campbell already making the pass on Blaine Atkin, now up to 2nd place. Peyton Hamlet just looking like a sitting duck right now. Jeff Green trying to get by Blaine Atkin, and Atkin almost pinching the 2 down, but giving enough space.
Jeff Green now going to move to 3rd place. The door left open for 4th. Atkin hard into the wall again, this time off of 4. Jake Hounshell has to go almost all the way down to the inside wall to give him some room.
Also, update, Bo Brady has parked for the day. DNF for the 20 machine.
So another poor performance here for our previous winner at Phoenix. And how about these couple of cats right now? 6th and 7th, Jason Hounshell and Seth Harrelson. They've had some battle scars during the course of this race, but they're now up inside of the top 10, trying to crack the top 5.
How many times have we seen Jason Hounshell into the inside wall on the backstretch? Still, that car is running up to 6th place and trying to get into the top 5 with his brother of Jake Hounshell. Jason having a very good run, and Blaine Atkin with that hard hit that he got.
Third in the leader spins, and he's going to come maybe back up the track. He saves it. No, he's going to nose it into the inside wall, heading for 1.
Almost came up into Michael Norman, almost into Blake, and whoo!
Oh, you saw it happen there. Campbell was putting the pressure on Peyton Hamlet and might have gotten into his head as that 10 just snapped around on corner exit. No contact between the 2 drivers in that battle for the lead.
Yeah, it looked like he had it straightened out, tried to get back onto the racing line, saw Jeff Green, and just kind of panicked and came back down into the inside wall. And Peyton Hamlet was our leader, and now DNF for the day.
Boy, there you see, he just tried to run really low there through 3 and 4, try and run a defensive line. I wonder if maybe that might have led to especially the back end of the car wanting to step around. There you see the near hit with Michael Norman, the close call with Shane Lake, and boy, talk about going from an all-time high to an all-time low. Peyton Hamlet, race leader, and now in the garage area.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of one of the things I was talking about before we went green on that last restart. Was Peyton Hamlet he's looking like he's just nervous being up front. He doesn't really know how to react with some of the drivers that he's there racing with. I think if he had the freshest of tires and was up front compared to everyone else, I think he would have felt a little bit more comfortable. But he was on the oldest tires up front and just a little bit racing, a little bit too hard for himself. I think if he just was a little bit more patient on it, really on the exit of these corners, he would have been fine, but just a little bit too much wheel, and around that 10 car goes and ruining his day. But I'm expecting to see a lot more cars being taken out by the end of this thing, as we're coming to less than 10 laps to go.
Yeah, we're starting to see the hits a lot harder here in the second half of this race, as the 4 of James Roth going to go around, get his lap back. So that will have 12 drivers currently on the lead lap, as James Goshen on pit road getting some more damage repaired on his 85 machine. So right now, the Warriors that are still in the running for this win: Gerald Campbell, the race leader; Jeff Green in second; Jake Hounshell's in third; fourth, Blaine Atkin; fifth, Jason Hounshell. Then it's Seth Harrelson sixth, Hank Steinmiller in seventh, Michael Norman eighth, Shane Lake ninth, Jackson McLaren in 10th, James Goshen right now in 11th. He's back off pit road, still on the lead lap. And James Roth actually looks like he was 2 laps down, so getting that lucky dog, he will still be -1. So it will only still be 11 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green, which is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 laps to go.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. Okay, so looking at the tires and how the drivers are looking like, you got Gerald Campbell, who's on one of the freshest tires, as well with Jason Hounshell. They're on 18-lap old tires. Most of the rest of the field is on 25-lap old tires. Then you look at Hank Steinmiller, got the damage repair, but that was 9 laps ago. And it's looking tough for this 69 of Hank Steinmiller that is needing a win, but also needing to see the 25 car finish outside of the top 15, which does not look possible unless Gerald Campbell DNFs here in the next 2 laps.
It's interesting if you look at the scenario for our top 5. You got Gerald Campbell, who hasn't won since early December of last year; Jeff Green, Blaine Atkin, Jason Hounshell. These are guys that are just trying to find victory lane for either their first or second time here to close out the season. Jake Hounshell is trying to keep his championship hopes alive. And if you look at the 0-2 and the 0-0, both running inside of the top 5, they're trying to win the Ed Hounshell 150. I mean, how cool would it be for them to be able to win a race like that, a tribute race? It'd be kind of one of those storybook moments.
Absolutely remarkable, emotional. And it would be such a blast to just see those drivers do that. There's been a change on the restarts here, Seth. We're waiting on the lights, but it looks like single file restarts here. And I will take a step back. I'll be back when we go green.
And it will be with 10 laps to go. Couple of question marks here. The 0-5 of Blaine Atkin deciding to continue to stay out, despite us seeing him get into the wall under that last green flag run. Also going to have to keep an eye on that 63 of Hank Steinmiller, because we know he got that front end damage, and on that last restart, he just kind of stuck in the 7th position, was not able to make forward progress, our pole sitter for today. So we'll see if maybe he does have something still under the hood to make his way up here, at least into the top 5, or if that damage he sustained from that caution a few laps ago, if that is going to basically be it for the 63's championship hopes, as Gerald Campbell going to lead them down here into turn 3. The restart is in his control. We'll see if Jeff Green's going to be able to stick with him. As Sam alluded to, it's the first time tonight that these drivers are going to deal with a single file restart at Dover International. Green right onto the bumper of Campbell. Campbell timed it nicely. He's going to open up nearly 3 car lengths of a gap between himself and Jeff Green. Green with a gap of about a car length and a half back to Hounshell. Battle's going to be around that 3rd, maybe 4th position, as Hounshell actually gets a nice run through 1 and 2. He's going to try and pull to the back bumper of Jeff Green.
Yeah, and Jeff Green is going to be trying to just hold on and to this position. But really, just looking at the tire compounds, Gerald Campbell is in the best situation of all these drivers. But here comes Jeff Green with a head of steam, and he's now cutting in.
He is indeed, as we're side by side back here. Seth Harrelson makes the pass. He moves into the top 5 on Jason Hounshell, then nearly loses it. Hounshell going to cross him over going into 3. Hank Steinmiller looking on at this battle.
Hank Steinmiller just not giving up. He needs to get as many positions up front as possible. But Gerald Campbell, he's done everything he needs to do. He is now in a position that I think that he's locked up the championship just points-wise mathematically here by being at least being on the lead lap right now.
Gerald Campbell finished runner-up last week. We didn't even see Jeff Green last week. It's been a while since he's been to victory lane at Bristol. Both these drivers trying to find victory lane for what's been a bit of a drought for both of them. It's going to be the two of them maybe to settle this thing out with less than 10 to go.
7 laps to go when it's within 2/10 that Jeff Green is in, but really right now the draft is helping the best that he can. But right now, side-by-side racing for 5th place, Seth Harrelson and Hank Steinmiller. It looks like Jason Hounshell might have had issues for the 0-0.
Yeah, he got up into the wall off turn 4 a couple of laps ago. He has faded from this battle for the 5th position, now just trying to hold on to 7th, as Steinmiller is going to get alongside of Harrelson. He's going to move back into the top 5.
Speaking of fading, that's what Jeff Green's doing. He was within 2/10. He's about to be back about 4/10 now. This 2 machine, either he's backing off trying to save his tires for a final push, or he's finally ran out.
Oh yeah, he really pushed up there off of 4. I think that he has used up his stuff here. He's going to have to hope this 25 makes a little bit of a mistake, as Campbell with the advantage as far as tires are concerned. And we're starting to see that now as he is pulling away. Green maybe falling back into the clutches of Jake Hounshell in the battle for 2nd.
It's the battle now that's growing for 4th place. Hank Steinmiller, he's just trying to conserve the blow, but it's just a little bit too late. Just looking at how we're seeing Gerald Campbell and Jeff Green racing. Campbell looking for another win, his first non-1.5 mile win at a course this season, which has been baffling to see. We thought maybe Gerald Campbell would get a win at a short track sooner, but right now it could be here at Dover.
I said Gerald Campbell was the only multi-time winner this season. That was incorrect. Shane Tyrion and Gerald Campbell both have 2 wins on the season. But if Campbell can close out the deal here, then he would sit alone atop the most wins this season with his 3rd trip to victory lane. Lot of clean racetrack ahead of him. A big gap of nearly a second back to Jeff Green. And 2 laps to go as he comes off of 4.
What's looking like might be the battle is for 2nd place. It's going to be Jake Hounshell now right on the bumper of the 2 of Jeff Green. And Jake's trying his best. This 0-2 machine, he hasn't really been the biggest voice here all race, but certainly just been slightly making a good run for himself. Now a fabulous run, trying to get a 2nd place finish here as we're coming to the white flag.
Gerald Campbell sees the white flag. He will come around the Monster Mile looking for his 3rd checkered flag of the season. Think how much more important next week's going to be for every driver in the field at North Wilkesboro if the championship's decided, just to see who could take that final checkered flag of the season. As Gerald Campbell off turn 4, the Ed Hounshell
Jeff Green got spun!
It's going to
Jeff Green, Jake Hounshell, they wrecked!
Oh, they're going to drag race to the line. Hounshell's going to win that photo finish between those 2 wrecked race cars.
Woo! Steinmiller able to get up to 4th. Jeff Green getting a little bit of retaliation there. But Gerald Campbell, 3rd win of the season and locking up the championship with that win.
The winless streak of over a month has been quenched for Gerald Campbell, and not only a checkered flag, but a proverbial championship trophy earned here tonight by Gerald Campbell, regardless of what happens next week at North Wilkesboro. But boy, Gerald Campbell had quite a road to toe here today at Dover. Never really took the race lead until about 30 laps to go.
Yeah, Gerald Campbell, he started off looking extremely strong, started in 2nd place, then he moved up and got pushed all the way back to about 17th, back to about 15th place, and ever since then, around lap 20, he's had to slowly make a charge forward, had to get a little bit off sequence with tires, and it worked out for the 25 machine.
And I know that he made contact with the left side, or make that the right side with Bo Brady earlier on, but when you consider the fact that it was 150 laps here at Dover, and most of these drivers' cars look like they've been through the middle of a demo derby, that 25 car, for the most part, doesn't look like it really has a mark on it.
No, you got to give credit to Pit Road for getting at least any of the damage that was there on the 25 machine, getting it done, as right now Gerald Campbell doing the Polish lap, celebrating both the win and also winning the 2020 and 2021 G-Force Grand National Series Championship. A great job for himself, but still 1 more race to go.
We're going to be talking with Gerald Campbell once he brings that DuPont Chevrolet down to victory lane, as some more burnouts here on the front straightaway for the Dover, Delaware fans. Take a look here at the finishing results from today's race. And you talked about the must-win situation for Jake Hounshell and Hank Steinmiller. Man, they gave it a yeoman shot here tonight. 2nd for Jake, 4th for Hank, but it just coming up a little too short.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give a great credit to Hank Steinmiller. That was a disastrous wreck that he was involved in late with less than 30 laps to go, but still able to rebound and get a 4th place finish for himself. A great job for himself. Then Blaine Atkin in 5th place, Jason Hounshell 6th, Seth Arlson, Jackson McLaren, Michael Norman, and Shane Lake. I mean, Michael Norman and Shane Lake, great runs for themselves, as well as McLaren able to get their top 10 finishes.
Typical short track, right? Usually we have up in the top 5 those guys that we've seen up at the front all day long, and then those ones in the second half of the top 10 were those that ran all the laps and basically survived, and they reaped the rewards.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you need to do here late in these runs, and a great drive by all those drivers. And now we look at the final of the rest of the order of drivers that were able to race.
Couple of former winners here outside of the top 15. Bo Brady in 16th. Christopher Morse Jr., last week's winner, finishing in 18th place. And then Randy Koking was the last driver that actually got on the track that DNF'd in 21st. AJ DiMarzio did not get onto the racetrack here to start in today's race at Dover, despite him being in the qualifying session. But down we go to pit road to talk to some of our top 3 finishers, and we are going to kick things off with our 2nd place finisher, that being the driver of the 02, Jake Hounshell. Hey Jake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Sure do. Go ahead.
Man, exciting finish there at the end between you and the 2, but 150 laps here tonight at Dover. We saw a lot of beating and banging, a lot of passing for position, and a lot of carnage. How difficult was it to kind of keep your mind halfway thinking about pit strategy, and at the same time, make sure that you're aware of everybody around you and what they're doing, while also making sure your car doesn't snap around you, because we saw a lot of drivers dealing with that loose condition off the corner?
It's I mean, it's a chess match for sure. You got to be thinking about all that stuff at the same time, and this is one of my favorite tracks because I mean it really appreciates consistency. So if you can be consistent throughout the whole thing, through all of that, then you're going to end up doing really well. I mean, you just got to be almost robotic. You know, every lap is got exactly the same, and it's going to pay off.
You know, we talk about Dover being a finesse track and also being maybe one of the more abrasive tracks on that right front tire. Coming into this race with 2 races remaining, you still had a mathematical shot for the championship, but almost in a must-win situation. How difficult was that to put that in the back of your mind, knowing that this was going to be a track that you were going to have to pace yourself?
Well, I wasn't thinking too much about the points. I'm pretty sure I was almost mathematically out of it. Even though this is one of my best tracks, and I knew I was going to pull off a good finish if everything went well. It really wasn't too much of a factor. Yeah, I was just trying to have a good run.
Yeah, Jake, I mean, this was a great run for yourself, 2nd place here today, but what was the meaning for this race for you, just overall for getting a good run?
I mean, you know, it means a lot. I mean, it's the Ed Hounshell 150, you know, for a reason. My dad, you know, this is basically our home track. We grew up in Maryland, so this is the closest one to us, and we used to go here from early 80s to late 90s. We never missed a race. It was a really special weekend for us every year, twice a week, you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. I want to come out with a win, but this is the best I could do tonight.
A great battle there at the end, as we said, between you and Jeff Green, able to get that 2nd position here tonight. Congratulations, Jake. We're now going to turn the microphone over to you to let you do some thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that finish there. I don't really use the bumper very often, but I was just trying to rattle his cage. I'm sure he can appreciate that. So I want to thank, you know, my brother for helping me out through this race. You know, it was his idea to sponsor the race for our dad. So I want to thank him, everybody who's watching at home. You know, FRN, for you guys putting this on. It's just everything you guys do is just top notch. It's great. And yeah, so thanks a lot, guys.
That's Jake Hounshell, 2nd place here tonight at Dover International Raceway. Congrats on a great run there, Jake. We look forward to seeing how you close out the end of the season here at North Wilkesboro, hopefully with a trip to Victory Lane.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Looks like we are, at this point, not able to get our 3rd place finisher, Jeff Green. So let's go down to Victory Lane for the 3rd time this season. Gerald Campbell takes a checkered flag here in the G-Force Grand National Series. Hey Gerald, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Well, hello guys. How are you guys?
Man, it's been a long time since we've talked to you down in Victory Lane. We got to go all the way back to December 1st of last year at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. How good does it feel to finally get the monkey off your back and finally put this 25 back in Victory Lane?
Ah, man, it feels good to finally just kind of end off the season the way I started. Back to where I was. It wasn't mistake free, but just got to the point where I was getting frustrated because I was getting so close to these victories, and I had the speed for a lot of these racetracks, and somehow I went to Dover with thinking that I'd be a little happy to finish top 5 since it's one of my worst tracks, and once I figured out how important tires was, I knew tires was more important than how fast you were. So that's what I just played to the strategy as tonight, and feels good to be back here.
Something else we saw here tonight, especially with a lot of the front runners when they would come down pit road, take on tires, and start mid-pack, was patience. And we saw, being in the mid-pack area, bite a couple of drivers, the 63 getting in a wreck, the 3 getting in a wreck, both being former leaders of this race. A couple of points, you were actually back there in mid-pack with some tire strategy. Were you nervous back there, or were you able to make your way methodically through the field?
I was in 2 or 3 wrecks. They just weren't cautions. So I got hit in the side. I don't know how this car even has panels on the side. I got stuck up against the wall on a restart. I got hit in the side a couple times by guys coming down. And that last time, before that big pileup that got a few other guys, I got really slammed into the side. So I don't know how this thing is built strong because it just it didn't slow down a second. It just was just so fast tonight, and man, the damage just didn't stick to this thing. So I don't know what coat of wax it is, but I'd be doing some shout outs if I knew, because this thing is dent resistant because it still looks pretty. But now it getting through the pack from all the way back there, there at the end, my thoughts were, the least amount of guys in front of me, the better chances of me getting through a wreck. So I was just full gung-ho. I think 63 was trying to take his time, and I guess he probably had just a track blocked in front of him, so he didn't have an option. And that's what you sometimes get dealt here with when there's walls on the inside and outside of you. So my strategy was just try to get in front of the wreck as best I can. This one was actually into my side, so close enough, but just got lucky there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald, a great season for yourself. After getting the win here today, you are now locking up the championship for yourself here in the G-Force Grand National Series. How does that feel, being able to say that you have locked it up and you are the champion of this series?
I'll feel better if I win next week. I like to just, because I'm going to my favorite racetrack, North Wilkesboro. Feels good to lock it up. Going into North Wilkesboro, nothing to lose, nothing to look back on, just forward, which is my whole MO, is just going forward, going hard, putting on a good show, putting people in positions that they have to race hard if they're going to beat me. So if they're going to beat me in North Wilkesboro, they're going to have to be on their game, because that is a track I absolutely love and have good feeling for. So yeah, just happy that I'm just happy I get to go to North Wilkesboro and not have to worry about anything, or people have to race me any less hard. They didn't really race me less hard tonight, but I want people to go into North Wilkesboro knowing that they're going to have to probably put a bumper to me to try to win the thing. So, and now they don't have to worry about it or think that they can't do that. So I just want good fun. I just want a lot of fun out there. Bumping and banging is the stock car way, and FRN is going to have a good showing of it, and hopefully you guys can get it all on the broadcast, and people that stick around and watch it for next week are going to have a blast watching me up there battling for it. So happy I got the championship. Happy I get to go to North Wilkesboro with just fun on the mind, and thank you guys for being a part of it, and thank you for showing it along the way and doing your storytelling that you guys do.
Well, we can't wait for that final of the final 4 of the short track stops you guys have had to deal with here in the closing stages of the season for the G-Force Grand National Series. Gerald, congratulations on the victory here tonight. We'll be saying this again next week, but congratulations on wrapping up the championship. Well deserved after a tremendous season you've had, and we're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you, shout outs, and sponsors.
Yep, thank you, PRC Esports. with Morris in there, and usually Cosby's here. He'll be here for next week. I bet you he likes that track just as much as me. But thank you to the teammates. PRC is a fun group of guys that we just enjoy each other's time, and racing is our hobby, and we get to share it with each other. Thank you guys again. FRM, some of the best broadcasting that anybody can be a part of is FRN. You guys do a fantastic job. I enjoy listening to you guys. You make me into a hero. So other than that, thank you to the competitors. I like these group of guys. I hope I get to race with these guys next year for the 87 cars, because I like the 87 cars more than these. So we'll see if we can maybe make it 2 champions next year, 2 championships in a row for with the 87 cars. So other than that, just I'm gonna go to bed.
Well, that's Gerald Campbell, 3-time winner this season and your G-Force Grand National Series champion, but he's got North Wilkesboro to deal with next week. Good luck there, Gerald, and congratulations on your victory here tonight.
Absolutely can't wait.
And so now, Sam, with the championship decided, nobody's going to have to worry about that. It's just going to be 150 laps next week at North Wilkesboro. Everybody vying to get that final checkered flag of the year.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very much firecracker race to be seen. We've got so many storylines going into next week. Yes, we know who the championship driver is. That's Gerald Campbell, who just won it and clinched it here today at Dover. But all the different wrecks and incidences that we just saw, I mean, Kyle Johnson and Peyton Hill, that is going to be something to watch out for next week if either one of those drivers gets parked or if they're going to allow both those drivers racing and what type of contact is going to be made.
Not only that, but being a short track, you're going to want to stick around for the entire race, because if you go back to USA, Iowa, and here tonight at Dover, either the race-winning move or the race-winning strategy has ended up happening somewhere in the final 30 laps. So a whole bunch of different things have had to happen in the 120 laps leading up to that. It's always a who's who of going to be left standing, who's going to be damaged, who's going to have their car still in one piece when we get to that point of the race.
Who's going to have the best tires at the end? Who's going to have the best tire strategy? It was Gerald Campbell here today, but you know, we've been seeing so many different strategies throughout the season. Who's going to throw something a little bit more of a wild card there at the end?
Championship may be decided, but we've got a great finale coming up at North Wilkesboro next week to close out the season for the Grand National Series here for the G-Force Sim Racing Series. But Sam, it's been a wild one here tonight at the Monster Mile. Miles was hungry for sure as he gobbled up a lot of race cars, but I appreciate you joining me for this one.
Oh, it's always a blast to be up in the booth with you, Seth, and I just cannot wait to see how the finale of this season is going to go down.
Gonna be a good one. Hope you guys will join us next Tuesday night. Green flag gonna fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Qualifying will take place prior to that, as we'll get to set the field for the final time here in the Grand National Series. But for Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.